Today we have guest Steve Rudzinski.
Hey folks, how's it going? May have heard of me from such films as Carousel 2, and The Meowie Chronicles. You have another guest star, Whiskers is here.
Oh, nice. Hey, Whispers. uh, so I've actually seen Carousel 1 and 2, but I haven't seen the Meowie Chronicles.
Well, I mean, some people love them. I mean, there's arguably some of the best financial decisions I've made in my life.
Hmm.
Apparently, kid weird movies is something that's in demand, and not a lot of people have like tapped into that market of, especially Meowie Halloween. Meowie Halloween, I've made the most money off of in my life of anything in my career. So who knew that talking cat PG horror was something that people really wanted?
What? Who is that, Bryan? Shoot, yeah. I
I
mean,
tell
shoot.
everyone, like, rip me off. I'm not offended. Please make your own talking animal movie. There's a whole big pie that everyone can have a slice of.
But as a kid, I would have loved that. I mean, like PG horror stuff. So
I mean, I love that stuff. Like, I mean, my career is mainly in R-rated horror. I see a
yeah.
lot of R-rated horror. I watch it year round. So honestly, when it's Halloween time, that's what I watch. I watch PG horror because
Mhm.
I think that's super fun. Huge fan of Ernest Scared Stupid,
Oh yeah.
but also like Paranorman, Hocus Pocus. Like, Halloween Town, sign me the fuck up. Can I swear?
Yeah. I mean, it's called the fucking movie podcast. Yes.
I know.
Yeah. And what was the name of your movie that you're about to work on again?
We're about to start production on Shingles the movie. If you want more information on that, feel free to search for Authors and Dragons. They're the writers of the book series. If you want to know more about me and my work, please head to silverspotlightfilms.com. That's where you can find DVDs, Blu-rays, the Carousel deck building game, got a vinyl record, posters, and if you don't want to buy 12 movies on DVD, I understand. Money's been a little tight for everyone. I do have a digital subscription option called Steve Buster, stevebuster.com, where for as low as $2.99 a month, you can get access to my entire library and a bunch of bonus features, all the bonus features from my physical releases, and exclusive stuff that I've shot just for Steve Buster, such as Lost in Cleveland, the Wolfster movies in HD, well, upscaled in HD, and the current Meowie Dark Timeline miniseries. And you get permanent access. You get a link, and you can save that link even after you unsubscribe. I just politely ask you, please don't fucking share it. I barely make any fucking money as it is. God damn, please don't pirate indie movies. Why is this a complicated? Why is that a controversial statement? Don't pirate indie artists, for the
I
love of fucking
I
God.
I think there is this mindset in people's minds if someone's made a movie and it's seen where I can see it that these people have to be rich. I don't know
Yeah, a
why
lot of
it's
people think that,
there,
yeah.
but like I think that's how people think.
They're gonna get paid somehow magically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
money is
They
going to
already made
magically
their
appear.
money. No, I didn't.
I didn't make any money yet. They're relying on you.
Because you're stealing it.
So I got to ask you. So what would you say sparked your interest in movies and filmmaking?
Well, I was always a creator. As a
Mhm.
kid making stories with my toys or drawing bad comic books and making up stories as a lonely only child that wasn't allowed to have friends. Um, so at first I wanted to be a comic book writer, then I became a video game writer, and then I saw Army of Darkness when I was
Oh,
12 years old, and that's what made me decide movies. It made me
yeah.
feel really good, made me feel really happy, made me feel about bad stuff going on in my life, and I wanted to do that for other people, and I just loved how silly it was and how it had its own flavor. Obviously, I've been seeing movies my whole life up to that point, but Army of Darkness was that trigger. That was the thing that made me go this, and I've never changed my mind since.
And that's a good choice to as for a movie to spark this too. I mean,
Hmm.
Sam Raimi is just brilliant.
Oh yeah, and that's probably why a lot of my movies are also silly and
Mhm.
funny, and that's why it's still my even before Army of Darkness, my favorite sort of horror was horror that was hilarious and fun. I was a kid
Yeah,
laughing at Freddy's jokes. I was never
yeah.
scared.
Me too.
You know.
Oh, by the way, I've like searched your YouTube and found your Slasher Hunter series and
Yes,
watched
the
that.
Slasher Hunter.
And me and him both crack up at your version of Freddy.
Oh, thank you. Frank is one of my favorite characters to play. It's him and Wally from the Meowies are my two favorite
Mhm.
characters that I play of myself.
Oh God, I was actually laughing just thinking about that clip. Any Freddy parody, I'm absolutely game for.
And he died from being trapped in a freezer, which is
Yes.
hilarious.
All he did was touch some kids. He doesn't see what the problem is. It was a joke. It was just a joke.
I was laughing at the fact that he had two gloved hands and couldn't open
Couldn't
stuff
do
with.
anything. Yeah, I immediately decided on the two gloves early on because it's a parody, and I was like, "What's different?" Oh, he has two gloves, and then from there we worked on like the green sweater. The ice actually came after the two gloves. But
Yeah.
as soon as I was wearing both gloves, I was like, I have to Edward Scissorhands this for the rest of this
Mhm.
character's existence. He can't do anything now. He can morph into anyone and have regular hands, and he
Yeah.
just doesn't. Fun thing with Frank, it's not even with Frank, but like, so a few years after the Slasher Hunter, like the year after, I forget when, Mortal Kombat 9 came out.
Mhm.
You know, like the first one was the reboot,
Yeah.
and Freddy Krueger was a guest character in that game. And if you pick player 2 Freddy, I ain't saying it's exactly, but it's close enough to looking like Frank that I went, did anyone on this team maybe see the Slasher Hunter? Because like he has like a very similar green sweater. You
Uh,
know, he has two gloves in the game. Just
Never
something to
know.
throw out there. Yeah.
Um, so me and him watched Carousel the second the other day, and he was dying laughing at all the hoof
Oh
jokes.
God, I don't know what it is. It's like anytime
It's
it's like,
great.
yeah, anytime there's something that's like, yeah, you can't pick it up because of not hands.
I love dumb fucking humor like that. You know, like I like silly shit.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Slapstick, like visual gags, that gags that like take just a second too long. You know, like the hoof trying to pick up
God,
the watch is my favorite
I
of
don't know
all of
why I
them.
was laughing at that other stuff, but that killed me. That was,
I'm
uh,
glad. I'm glad. So, did you enjoy the films overall?
I
yeah,
did.
yeah, we've seen them both.
Mhm.
We watched the first one. It was a while
It was
ago,
a while
actually.
ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the first one, I enjoy, and I hate to sound like this guy, but my favorite part was the kid dying at the end.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. I want that to be people's favorite part. Not everyone's, but like I very meticulously paced that ending so that
mhm.
there's that like few seconds of like, oh fuck, he let the kid live.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the kid's dead. When I first saw that live at Cinema Wasteland, it was like, okay, so like I also worked for Marvel Live
Mhm.
as Spider-Man, you know, like for doing arena shows and stuff. So I've done performances in front of a lot of people, and like there's some really loud roaring crowds. When everyone thought Lunchbox lived at Cinema Wasteland, and this is like a hotel convention, so like there's maybe tops 100 people in the screening room, and even that's pushing it. It was sitting on the floor room only though. It was a packed house. It was all of the groans and the boos, and as soon as the car hits Lunchbox, it is the loudest cheer I've ever gotten in my life, and I've
Mhm.
been riding that high for like 6 years.
Well, that's great. Like I feel like too many movies, like they even if it's a asshole kid, they shy away from killing kids, and I'm like,
Mhm.
eh. Especially when they're assholes, kill
Absolutely, yeah.
them. So Steve, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you and Jared and myself, but I'll let you answer first since you're the guest. What since we're talking about Spider-Man today, what is your first memories of Spider-Man? Like, what do you remember being the first thing that made you a fan?
It is hard to say, honestly. You know, I want to say, I want to say the animated series. You know, the
Yeah.
'90s animated series. That's what I want to say, but I don't think so because I absolutely saw Spider-Man stuff before I saw
Mhm.
that show. I saw the Hammond live action Amazing Spider-Man made for TV movie.
Yeah,
I I want to say maybe Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
pretty
Yeah.
close to my answer. Like
Yeah.
mine was I guess the series that came out same year as Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, just
It was
called
like the year
Spider-Man.
before. Amazing Friends was like a sequel
Yeah,
series or
yeah.
something like
So
that.
it was that series. So it's practically the same thing for me. And of course, I also saw the live action Spider-Man show. Like I remember renting tapes of that when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
did.
and Jared, what about you?
Well, I mean, it's close to the same time because I definitely watched Spider-Man's Amazing Friends. But I think the earliest thing I think of Spider-Man anything was when my sister was born. This was 1982. I was just over 2 years old, and I guess you know I'm at the hospital with my dad. My mom's up in the hospital room, and my dad gets me a comic book from the gift shop just to kind of like keep me occupied, and it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I can't read them too, but I remember Spider-Man on the cover. And I guess the two things I remembered most about it was nothing to do with the story or the pictures in there. Was one of those old Hostess fruit pie ads with Spider-Man slinging fruit pies,
The Hostess fruit pies.
and there was an ad for Spider-Man vitamins.
Mhm.
And I remember in my tiny little kid head, I had it in there that maybe if I took these vitamins, I'll get spider powers.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, I mean, ads work on a 2-year-old apparently.
They
Um,
absolutely do.
but that was but I mean, it's weird. It's like Spider-Man's one of those things. Like he's always been around. He's always existed.
hmm Yeah, it's hard, like, to quote New Nightmare, it's like Santa Claus or King Kong.
Yeah.
Arguably, I mean, these superheroes in general are modern mythologies.
Yeah.
Like they're arguably, gods and legends. It's just in a monetized capitalist society as opposed to when stories about Odysseus and Hercules were being written, and Zeus and what have you. But a lot of these characters from Marvel and DC, kids know before they realize they know.
Yeah.
They're everywhere, and especially Marvel back in the day was so good at pushing the multimedia stuff to get the leg up over DC, who I think up to that point was arguably the top dog for a long, long time. And then Marvel was like, "What if we make cereal and shit like that?"
Yeah.
I mean, it works. I've got a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old, and honestly, since they could crawl, I mean, they Spider-Man. I mean, there's
Yeah,
something about the character
Mhm.
that like the look or just the idea of this guy like swinging on
I
webs.
mean, yeah, it's a great suit. First of
Mhm.
all, like that's a big thing with kids. If it looks cool, they care. And yeah, the swinging is unique. A lot of heroes fly, a lot of heroes have cars, but not a lot of heroes specifically swing. It's a nice mix of being super powered but not overpowered. I think that his enemies are also a draw for a
Yeah.
lot of kids because his enemies are bright and ridiculous. I've always said the three heroes with the best rogue galleries are Spider-Man, Batman, and the Flash.
Yeah.
But that may be more personal. But I love the rogues that
No,
the
I think
Flash
that.
has.
Yeah, that's definitely like those are the top three.
Yeah,
And it was like it surprised me. I was taking my 11-year-old to school this morning. I told him it's like we're going to be recording and talking about Spider-Man, and he was asking me, well, what are you going to talk about? And he was like, he just kept rattling off villains and was like, yeah, there's that many of them. It's like
yeah.
we're not really going to talk about the armadillo, but
Now this episode is about Big Wheel and only Big Wheel.
So
No, and Takuya and his giant robot, Japanese Spider-Man. We have to talk about.
oh,
I'm actually that's probably the Spider-Man I'm least familiar with is the Japanese one.
I'm a big fan. I am a hipster when it comes to Japanese Spider-Man, but that's because I'm a big Tokusatsu fan. I love
Mhm.
Super Sentai and Power Rangers. So since the history of Super Sentai
They,
started
yeah.
with Tokusatsu Spider-Man, basically, that's how I discovered that series first. And I've seen the whole thing, and it's
I've seen
great.
clips of it, but I don't think I've ever watched it. Like seriously, sat down and watched it.
Well, I mean, I will say it is a Tokusatsu at its core, so it's very
Yeah.
Monster of the Week. And it's early Tokusatsu too. It's not like '90s Tokusatsu when like Super Sentai was like really taking the writing seriously
Mhm.
from then on out. So you got the first like two episodes, which are a really great setup, and then it's a lot of Monster of the Week. But there's so much fun stuff in it. It has such a great sense of humor and fun. It's like way better than the Hammond Amazing Spider-Man American live action. That Japanese Spider-Man was the definitive live action Spider-Man for decades, and it wasn't even Peter Parker. That's how well done this show was.
I was going to ask, have all of us just real quick. What was your favorite comic book era of Spider-Man? Like, I'll start with you, Steve.
I mean, yeah, this is harder because there's a lot of nostalgia attached to this, but I really did like the whole like 90s era, including the Clone Saga. But I thought that there was a lot of peak examples of the characters in that, but from the villains, from Peter, from Mary Jane. That's where Mary Jane stopped being just a supermodel, and like you saw her cry more and freaking out over Peter being out and stuff. And that's what made me attached to the character Mary Jane and love her so much as a love interest. Off the top of my head, that's the best couple in Marvel. Like, I can name a bunch of couples from DC that I really like and I think really hold each other up and are super interesting. And then it's just like, what about Marvel? It's like, it's Mary Jane and Peter. Like, that's it. That's all that comes to mind. And that's not to necessarily throw shade at the rest of Marvel, but that's just how good their relationship was. Fuck you, Joe Q, for taking that away.
That's going as a YouTube clip.
but like you basically just spoke my mind there, because that's what made me stop reading Marvel. Was whenever that happened. Whenever that happened, I like just got mad and stopped reading for like the longest time. Actually, still not reading.
You didn't miss anything.
I went back to read. I mean, I keep reading comics, but I stopped buying Spider-Man after that. And after a while, when like either when Dan Slott started or Dan Slott left, I forget which of the two, but I started back in because they were kind of hinting that they were going to undo One More Day.
Yeah.
And it was better, and like him and MJ were kind of in a relationship again, but they weren't undoing One More Day, and that's when Marvel switched to like, oh, Spider-Man's coming out every 2 weeks, baby. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Because Marvel has always been way worse at stories not mattering long term. All comic book companies do it, to be clear, but I honestly think Marvel's the worst offender, and I just couldn't get attached to that much storytelling that wasn't going to lead to anything that mattered long term, because nothing seems to.
I would say Brand New Day was probably the worst thing that ever happened to Spider-Man. I have a friend that up until that point he had collected every single issue of Amazing Spider-Man, like all the way, like, he had back issues all the way to number 1, and that he never bought another Spider-Man after that. Like, I mean, he was like, no.
Well, because it would be like taking away Wally West's family. You spend years growing up with this character, and even if you didn't grow up with the character, you still had that history and that storytelling of the character growing up and going from a young man, a boy, to a young man, to an adult, with a wife and like problems.
Yeah.
And there was growth there, and that's one of the things that was so appealing about Peter, is that until he reached that point, he wasn't necessarily frozen in time like a lot of these characters are. Same with Wally, who is my favorite comic book character. He started off as a teen sidekick, and then now he's the Flash, and he doesn't know what the fuck to do, and like he's so scared of like overriding his Uncle Barry. But now he's his own, he's the Flash, and now he's an adult, and he's facing his old past problems and bad choices, and growing up with his white privilege, and like how he could become a better friend to the Titans and shit like that. And then he has a wife, and now he has kids. And then Dan DiDio really wanted Barry Allen back. Fuck you, Dan DiDio, for bringing back Barry Allen.
And then New 52 just erased Wally from existence.
Yeah, but Wally's back now, baby. Rebirth.
Until he became a killer.
They fixed that.
Yeah, I know. It's like the fact that they had that happen was just like,
they made it up by giving Barry the chair and making him a god. And my favorite moment of Rebirth has been when the Batman Who Laughs showed up again, and Wally just went up to him, no-selling him and saying, "Oh, so you're the Batman who tries too hard." And I was like, that's my boy. That's who I wanted back.
We could just do this whole podcast talking about Wally West.
Jared, what was your favorite era of Spider-Man comics?
It's when Wally West single-handedly...
It's when Spider-Man met the Justice League.
Speed Force, and he kept him there for 10 years. Oh, okay. Spider-Man. I guess the like the mid to late '80s for me.
Same for me.
Like that was like there were a lot more kind of, I guess, villain of the month, newer villains popping up. But you had like Hobgoblin being a big
That's
thing.
me. Like I'm a Hobgoblin guy all the way.
Harry becoming the Green Goblin. I think again.
Mhm.
And there was just enough like other stuff going on that it was like I was somehow familiar with like the '60s and '70s stuff because I'm basically was like a second generation Marvel guy because my dad was a military brat and that was all they had for entertainment in the '60s when they were in Germany was Marvel Comics. Um, so like I already knew about like all of that stuff, like Death of Gwen Stacy. So I guess the '80s era kind of felt like it was an extension, like a sequel to all that. And then,
Yeah.
of course, like you said with the '90s, it was like it was furthering Peter's development too. I love that era too, up to most of the Clone Saga.
I mean, I like the Clone Saga, but it lasted too long. Is the
It
biggest
drug
criticism
on
of the Clone
forever.
Saga. If it was 25% of the length, I think it would be a lot of people's favorite story. Because I did think that it introduced a lot of cool ideas. It can introduce Ben Riley, who everyone loves, and introduce Kane, who everyone loves. It just lasted for like 8 goddamn years
Yeah, I
for no
mean,
reason.
and it brought back Norman Osborn. It established the Jackal as like a more top level villain. It was,
Yeah.
you know, there's some good stuff in there, but it just took too long to get to the point where, oh, did we lose?
I don't know.
No, I'm here. The camera, I just need it off for 1 second because
Okay.
I had a drink delivered.
Ah,
And
I
someone
got you.
isn't
I
wearing
thought that we
all
were
their
having
clothes.
malfunctions. I didn't know what was going on. um. Yeah. Oh, so
so that's you now talking about favorite
Yeah,
era.
your
well,
favorite
it's
era.
the same error.
Oh, well,
Like I just said,
Oh, there you
said
go.
it's the same error.
lazy.
But again, like my favorite stories were very specifically Hobgoblin related and dealing with the Kingpin and the Rose and all that. Like,
I do appreciate Hobgoblin's story of just being like, I just found all this goblin shit. I'm gonna do it.
yeah, I love it.
Like, what a Chad.
Yeah, so I guess we're gonna talk about the movies.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start with the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Which I mean, I'm not great at math, but I think by the time this comes out, it'll be a few days post the 20th anniversary of Spider-Man, which makes me feel incredibly old. Um, but just I remember
I was in middle
myself.
school when that came out myself.
God, I remember like the lead up to that. Like I was, kind of early, like I guess the movie internet sites that had kind of popped up in the wake of like the Star Wars prequels or like especially Episode One, were like where the my daily reads as far as when there was always a Spider-Man update, and I remember like when they picked Sam Raimi to direct, I was like, oh my god, really? Because I already knew him from like
Yep,
Evil
same.
Dead and Darkman and Army of Darkness. And I remember the whole thing going down with like they wanted Freddie Prinze Jr. of all people, and Sam Raimi was like, Freddie Prinze Jr. be Spider-Man over my dead body. Up until like you get the World Trade Center bit that everybody's like, oh, they deleted. It's like you can find it on YouTube.
I still remember seeing that trailer and like how excited I was. I was like, Spider-Man. Yeah.
I remember that trailer being sold on VHS at Comic Cons for $30, and it was just that trailer.
Wow. I remember. I think it was the final trailer. Like when I finally had the inkling that it was going to be good, because we're 2 years, a little bit, almost 2 years past X-Men, and X-Men like it did what it did. I always say it's like, well, it didn't embarrass itself.
Yeah, I mean, I had fun with X-Men as a kid, but I definitely wasn't as into it as I feel like everyone else was.
Yeah.
I actually got mad after watching the first X-Men in theaters. I walked out, I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, that's not X-Men. Which I grew on it and like it more through time, but like,
But
yeah.
that Spider-Man trailer, that was the one that was like, oh my god, they're gonna pull this off.
Yeah, I remember rewatching the trailer that was on a PlayStation 2 demo disc over and over. up until the day of release.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been as hyped for a movie, even episode one,
Mhm.
uh,
I,
or
I
at least as hyped for a movie that actually delivered on most of everything I wanted.
I still remember being completely amazed by just the web slinging in that movie because I'd never live action seen something quite
Mm-hmm.
like that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, web swinging, keeping that the energy of the web swinging and the kineticism of it is really important to the Spider-Man movies,
Mm.
which I'll complain about when we get to the Disney era.
But God, the first Spider-Man was just I remember seeing it like 3 or 4 times in the theater, and there's things about it that I didn't care for even then, like the Goblin suit,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
which I'm like, yeah, no, and it made it worse years later when that.
And it's a crime to take away Willem Dafoe's face. I'm sorry, but it is.
I mean, he already
Yeah,
looks like a goblin.
Yeah, no makeup needed. He's a goblin.
yeah. I clearly they wanted to tap into the whole military suit type deal,
Yeah.
but give him a latex mask. I mean, we saw the test of that like
Yeah,
animatronic goblin mask, and it looks
Mhm.
amazing. And some
Yeah.
people have been like, "Oh, that would have been too silly." It's like, fuck
No,
off.
it would have been great.
yeah,
These were the most Silver Age comic book movies I've ever seen. If there's any movie where that would have fit, it's the Raimi
It would've
Spider-Man
been great.
movies.
and God, I remember the first time I saw that test footage when I don't know if it leaked out or what. But it's like, why didn't they do that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
overall,
will at least appreciate one of the nice creative decisions that Sam did was instead of, Willem Dafoe taking off his mask or him having no lenses, is that his lenses would just come up when he was
Yeah.
having dialogue, and so you can still see his eyes emote and act. And then when it was go time, they came back down. I actually really like that, and I wish
Mhm.
more characters did that. I like a Batman that had lenses as an option. Aside
Yeah.
from just when Ben Affleck had it in the armor suit. Like I would have loved if Affleck or Pattinson, when he got into a fight, white lenses came down, and then when he went to talking, lenses go up, and then you can go back to using your eyes to act, which is very important.
which
So that was a very interesting and smart move by Sam Raimi in the early 2000s.
yeah, and I mean, speaking of Willem Dafoe, I feel he's definitely the MVP of that first movie.
Oh, for sure.
Even more
No
so
question.
than Tobey Maguire, more so than. I think the fact that everything else was close enough, but it was Willem Dafoe just went for it.
Well, definitely for me, because I was never a fan of Toby as the character.
Me neither.
No,
I thought he was too monotone. Like, and I don't just mean, oh, he was too much of a loser. I didn't know he played it too monotone. He sounded bored all of the time. Like, it's you
I
who's
always
out,
felt like
Gobby.
he was playing more of a hammy version of Clark Kent than he was playing Peter Parker.
Which is probably how Sam directed him.
Yeah.
Because for
Yeah.
better and for worse, all of these movies are Silver Age Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
They are not modern Spider-Man. They are not like 90s Spider-Man. They're not 2000 Spider-Man. They are Silver Age Spider-Man.
Mhm.
So these movies haven't aged as well for me personally because the Silver Age of comics is my least favorite age of comics, except for the Flash because those first 12 issues are the funniest shit I've ever read in my goddamn life.
Mhm.
So, and that's not to say that these are bad. I'm not at all saying that.
Mhm.
But if you don't have the taste for that flavor,
they're good.
that is a detriment in
And
these films.
I've seen that with people that, and especially now, like um, younger adults that may have seen these as small children, and it's like they've got a weird, like, I don't know, like a distaste for the Raimi Spider-Man movies. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I don't agree with distaste, but I don't like it as much. I mean, when I was younger, I loved it because it was like the first time Spider-Man wasn't wearing black leather. That alone was making me
Yeah,
thrilled
yeah.
as a child. It was the suit. And,
Yeah.
Now as a 35-year-old, I'm just like, I don't really like the lenses. I don't like that they're reflective and so small. And the gold webbing is a little weird. And
Yeah.
I never really liked the raised webbing. Like I always liked the idea that the webbing is on the same level as the suit.
Mhm.
But like that's yeah.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on that. I do go
I
back
got
and
it.
forth.
But like I said, it's like he wasn't in black leather, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a serious possibility before the movie got made.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the Alex Ross designs, which got
Yeah.
used for the Superior Spider-Man,
Yeah,
which was a great way to do that.
yeah, that was fine. I was like, it's a good use of that. But I remember seeing that in the magazine. It's like, God, I hope he doesn't look like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
But I think it's a fun film. I think that it does a lot right. I think it's a great origin film.
Yeah.
It's a really well-paced origin film where you get like a nice solid bit of just Peter Parker, and then Peter getting into his own, and then the whole confrontation with his arch nemesis. It's paced really well. Samon's very good at that.
yeah,
Despise Mary Jane
I
in
was
this film
literally
series.
just talking to him about how much I hate this version of Mary Jane.
yeah, it's like, and I used to try to like, it's like, well, I mean, she's like a conglomerate of Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy, and the more I'm like, I can't even stand by that. She's not either of
Yeah,
those.
she's neither.
No, she's a very selfish, rude asshole who is very mean to Peter.
And I was just telling him how selfish I thought she was.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people I've had to explain that Mary Jane's a great character. Don't pay attention to the movies.
And she's like an extremely like well fleshed out, like multi-layered character. There's so much to her that's not in the movie.
Well, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think Kirsten Dunst herself, not hitting on her for like as a bad actress, because I've seen her be good in other things, but like she brings a weird non-energy to the movie. Like she's playing Mary Jane as the same age as Aunt May almost. Like she looks like she's an 18-year-old, 80-year-old.
I agree, but I also feel that's how Toby plays it. Like they both really play it low key in this like otherwise bombastic movie.
Yeah,
it's like surprising.
And then there's a lot of J.K. Simmons. I feel like, not J.K. Simmons. That was already in my head. There's a lot of Sam Raimi, like brought a lot of his own flavor to it. Like with the character like J. Jonah Jameson, who is I thought was perfectly cast.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect in every way. So perfect they couldn't replace him.
Yeah.
The cameos, Lucy Lawless as a punk, Bruce Campbell, of course, showing up. The Macho Man.
Yes.
Bonesaw's ready. Yeah.
I love that Sam tells the story that he hired Randy Savage based exclusively on his voice and no other reason.
I still love how he does 3. Got you for 3 minutes of playtime.
I quote 3 minutes of playtime all of the time.
Yeah.
That happens a lot here too.
Bonesaw, I swear, he's like my favorite part of that entire movie.
He's up there. He's fucking up there.
Yes, more so than the Goblin. I'm sorry. Bonesaw. He's the greatest Spider-Man villain ever.
Yes.
What if he would have came back in the new Spider-Man? How awesome would
that be? Use the CGI.
I know he
Savage is dead.
I understand this. I'm just wish,
If Disney is going to waste CGI on making the Doctor Strange building because they don't want to go to a fucking New York City street, they can make a CGI Randy Savage.
I'd be down for that.
I would be down for it.
We'll make him immortal. He'll never go away.
Exactly.
Bonesaw's back for 3 more minutes of playtime.
Yeah, Goblin has the box. He's like, man, I got you for 3 minutes. And then it's just Randy Savage beating the shit out of Willem Dafoe for the next 3 minutes of the film.
So, what else do we have to talk about the first one?
The organic webbing.
Oh, gross.
I didn't mind it.
I was so dead against that the entire time. Like, to me, being such a diehard Spider-Man fan, I'm like, the webbing is not organic. He makes it. This guy is a genius. He makes his webbing.
I mean, yes.
I was of the mind, it's like, that's kind of gross. Where's it coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I do
have
feel
like Popeye for that to work.
There is an argument to be made that it does take away a little bit from Peter, the idea that he is this genius that's able to develop this, or that the spider gave him some sort of the spider bite powers gave him some sort of innate knowledge of how to create this. That's why no one else can make this stuff. But at the same time, it's to me a non-issue. If he gets all these other spider powers, I don't think it's a leap that he also has webbing. Especially, obviously they took it from the movie, but when the comics got into like the magic idea of it and he's a spider totem, it's not just a sci-fi thing, which I'm okay with that. Some people hate making Peter not random. I don't mind him being more important than he thought he was.
I like him a little bit more random.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's valid, yeah.
That was what it was
But
in the comics. I'm like,
but most of the time, the only reason why Peter's webbing comes in cartridges is so that he can run out for a little bit and then he puts in a new
Which is
cartridge.
another argument that I give. Like I'm like, well, that adds an element of danger. You know, he's like in the middle of a fight, up in the air. Oh no, I'm out of web. Yeah, something like that. I'm like, you just killed that from ever happening.
I was never cared that much about that danger personally.
yeah.
Um, but it's valid to not like it. I just never minded it. The little spider legs coming out of his fingers fucked me up way more than him having
No,
webs.
I got you. I got you.
They came out of his wrists.
Yeah.
There's like the spider stingers or something he had. That was thankfully forgotten pretty quick.
Oh no, I mean in the movie when Peter's looking at his hand and all the little spider legs come out.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's
That
just
is
like a
creepy.
telekinetic psychic thing. It's not literally thousands of mini spider feet.
It's just
What the fuck? How does that work with his shoes?
Yeah, exactly. How does it go through his shoes?
stop picking the movie apart.
That's what else are we gonna do? It's a 20-year-old movie.
Oh, let's see. It also started. Well, I mean, it started kind of before that, but the tradition of throwing Spider-Man's girlfriend off of something in the movies, which
Oh yeah, I mean that was the Gwen Stacy scene.
Yeah.
Except in this universe, Peter makes the right choice the first time.
And doesn't
Yeah.
shoot a web after.
yeah, and well, I mean, it worked so well. I think they did it 2 more times with Kirsten Dunst. Just throw her off of something.
Yeah, this is a consistent criticism I have with the Raimi movies: is that every film is about Mary Jane, the damsel in distress, and Mary Jane and Peter's relationship every time. I don't want to jump ahead, but like at least compare it to the Amazing movies where it's like that's not what the entire fucking plot is about. At least it doesn't feel that way like it does in the Raimi movies. Where like that scene that feels like the spotlight is Peter and MJ, whereas like in Amazing 2, they break up and Gwen isn't around for a while, even though she's still living her own life. Peter's doing other shit. They get back together and it's nice. Peter's still focused on Harry and Electro and all this other shit versus all the Raimis. And don't get me wrong, I'm a romantic as hell. I love love. You know, one of my criticisms with modern films and MCU films especially is that there's not enough passion. There's not enough like romance. I want more of that. This is the opposite problem.
Yeah.
where it seems like that's all that matters. And I'm like, I've seen this 3 times now.
I also
Fucking go away, Kirsten Dunst.
I feel like Toby's Peter Parker comes off too whiny whenever it comes to, oh, Mary Jane's left me or she's not, blah, blah, blah. He just comes off very whiny in a way I don't like.
Yes, I agree.
You gonna move on to Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, hell, let's move on to Spider-Man 2.
The better of them?
I will. Before we move on, I'll say the climax of Spider-Man 1 with the fight between Goblin and Spidey is fucking great because it's brutal and dark and like it is just beating the shit out of Spider-Man.
The fact they did the glider thing like the comics was great.
Now, the glider kill.
I remember not long after the movie came out, Sam Raimi was talking about that fight between Spider-Man and the Goblin, that they had to re-edit the scene, and especially the sound mix, because the movie came back with an R rating.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, all the notes were on that scene, and that it was felt to be, or at least the MPAA people felt that it was too violent for PG.
I mean, that's the MPAA for it. It's not, there's not like a set of rules in a book. It's just like 12 moms that show up for work that day and however they feel. Todd McFarlane did interviews about it back when he was fighting with Spawn, constantly getting an R rating over and over and over and over again when they were trying to get PG-13. I'm going to butcher his quote, but the way he kind of described it is just like, it's all about tone, lighting, and location. I could have a movie that's just about 4 gentlemen having tea and having a polite conversation, but if I set it at midnight in a graveyard, there's a legitimate chance I'll get an R rating.
Yep.
And that's the case.
Which I've brought that up plenty of times. Like some movies, like one of the Conjuring, and it's like this movie has like no profanity, no nudity, no sex, like no actual violence really, and it's an R-rated movie.
It's also about like amount. If you just have more of something, it'll push you to R. Like if you compare Avengers Endgame and Zack Snyder's Justice League, like if you take out the fucks from Justice League,
Yeah.
for sake of argument, Justice League would still get the R rating. Not because there's anything in that movie that's especially more violent than what's in Avengers Endgame, but it's an hour and a half longer, so there's more of it, and that's the problem.
But yeah, I remember reading that bit from Sam Raimi and being kind of like, wow, it's like sound mixing. Being
Take out
like,
some grunts and some grunts and yelps and bones crunching, and there you
yeah, I
go.
think
Now
that
it's
was
okay
it.
for
Like,
kids.
and it's like it's the same thing, just Peter's gonna get punched in the face. But yeah, I love that. Of course, there's other memorable stuff. Something of a scientist myself, which has taken a life of its own, like within
It's
the
great,
past few
honestly.
years.
I love that meme.
Yeah, I mean, but it's weird. Like, I guess because memes weren't really a thing on the internet when Spider-Man came out, it's almost like it had this weird rebirth in the past like
Yeah.
5 years or so.
James Franco's Harry, I think, is great.
Yep.
I wish he was Peter Parker. That is who he
You know,
originally auditioned for.
He would have been much better in that role for
Yeah,
sure.
and
And I see it in Spider-Man 3 when he's a hero. Like, the way he jokes, the smile he has, how
Yeah.
charismatic he is. I'm just like, that's Peter Parker. Like, that's
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
he's got a confidence to him that Tobey
Mhm.
Maguire never has.
And how much of that is the script, though? How much of that is that's what Sam wanted because he grew up with the nerdy Spider-Man in like the first few years of his existence.
And
I don't want to blame Toby for that necessarily. There's so much when it comes to script, direction, producers.
Yeah.
we
You know,
don't
you
get
said
any,
yourself, Kirsten's a great actor in other stuff.
not
We
me.
hate her in these.
See, J.K. Simmons. I love everything about the Daily Bugle.
Oh yeah.
It has
Ted Raimi, baby. Give me more Ted Raimi in my veins.
Yeah,
Inject
Ted
it.
Raimi was great in that.
Yeah, but the interplay between him and J.K. Simmons is like it just feels like honestly it feels like something more out of a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
With those two, but
And of course, the hottest female character in the first two movies, of course, Betty Brant.
That's
Yeah.
what I was about to bring up. Yeah.
Which I remember when I found out that was
Elizabeth Banks.
Elizabeth Banks, I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but I guess we've beaten the Spider-Man dead horse. So
Yeah.
let's go on to Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2, which I think is easily the best of the Raimi movies.
It
And
is my least favorite.
Is it
really?
Yes. Of the Raimi movies. Of the Raimi
Of the
movies.
I just want you to elaborate.
It goes too deep into the Silver Age shit that I don't like. Doc Ock needs to rob money from a bank
I gotcha.
in order to legally buy equipment.
Maybe he's buying
What the fuck? I don't know. It's just too long. There's too much Mary Jane and Peter.
Of course, yeah.
Too fucking much. I love Alfred Molina.
Yes.
Him as Doc Ock is peak fucking one of the best comic book villains of all time to this day. No argument. You know, not gonna try to take away from that. But I just don't fucking care about the fucking movie. Like when I did a rewatch, I was just like, I get people liking it. I'll never ever knock anyone liking it. There's a lot to like. I don't see what people see that are saying this is still the best superhero movie ever made, period. I just don't have that good of a time with it. There's stuff that I like, but there's a lot that I just don't like.
That's interesting.
I gotcha. Like me, I was talking to him. I was saying that, I still absolutely hate the Peter and Mary Jane stuff from that movie.
Yeah.
And I think that makes me not want it to be a perfect movie just based on that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's my favorite because...
Yeah, please gush. I prefer when people like stuff. I mean that. Like,
it's like
I want you to gush before I say anything else.
Trying to quantify it, I think it feels more of a Sam Raimi movie than even the first one did.
Mm-hmm.
I love the hospital sequence, or at least the operating room sequence.
That's my favorite part of the
amazing. Yeah.
Basically, anything dealing with Dr. Octopus is really great. Maybe that's why I like it. Is just that. And I felt the action sequences were just way bigger. The fights between Spider-Man and Doc Ock, which don't really make any sense because he should go down on the first punch, but
That's a problem I've had with Spider-Man his entire comic book existence.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
he should be able to knock out every non-meta with one punch.
yes,
He pulls his punches. Yeah, you pull your punches not to murder someone. You can kick it up a notch to KO them.
yeah, and Doc Ock shouldn't have been like
He should have been the easiest. Like one.
he should have been like get past the arms and he's going down.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for me, I guess there was a lot.
Is there anything else you want to gush about before I say anything else?
Let's see. I mean, more J.K. Simmons. I think he was even more fun in the second one.
Him making wedding plans is a fucking joy. It's his best stuff in this trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Which now I'm thinking about is like, God, this does have a lot of Peter and MJ stuff. The landlord.
Oh, the landlord.
Oh yeah.
The landlord is like
great.
my favorite thing from the entire trilogy. The more I think about it, like Godred, love him.
He's the main villain of the entire trilogy.
No, he's the hero. He's the hero getting his rent money.
Yeah, the main villain is Joel McHale. He beats Ant-Man, Spider-Man. Capitalism is the true villain. No, you know who the fuck the true villain is? Wait, is it in 2 or 3? I can't remember.
Just say game.
When the landlord's daughter Ursula, when she asks Peter if he wants some chocolate cake, and then she brings him yellow cake. That bitch.
I think that's part 3, isn't it?
Okay, I forget. I honestly forget because the scenes of
3.
her and Peter blend together so much that I forget.
Yeah.
But like that drives me nuts to this day. Every single time I see him put down the plate, I'm like, that's not chocolate cake.
Yeah.
That's yellow cake with chocolate icing. If you promised me chocolate cake and brought that over, get the fuck out of my apartment. I'll fix the damn door myself to keep you out. And you're right, it's 3 because it's after he's angry and stuff, and she's trying to make it up to him.
Yeah. So I think I think we got less to say about Spider-Man 2 than I thought.
No, I can go.
Reiterate the hospital scene one more time. How much I love that.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's
straight Evil Dead.
I saw somebody say it was the best Evil Dead sequel that was made after Army of Darkness. I'm like, yeah, it is just for that little bit of time it's there.
But yeah, I agree that I like the action scenes in 2 a lot more than 1, and probably not more than 3. I think 3 goes fucking bonkers with the action in a good way, but the action in 2 is still amazing on its own. I remember one of my favorite parts is that Mary Jane tries to help and immediately is useless.
Yeah,
always gets a chuckle out of me.
But she picked up like a pipe or something. It's like, I'm gonna do something. It's like, nah, you're not doing that.
Nah, but it's like, let me just try to think about it. The opening credits are the longest in the trilogy. They're like over 5 minutes long, and it drives me fucking crazy. The art is nice because it's Alex Ross art, but I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, can we just go a little bit faster? It's all about Mary Jane again, which we've talked about. Toby is way less interesting in this one than the first one to me. I don't know what it is. But whenever I watch like 1 and 2 and 3 together, 2 always feels like the weakest Toby. I don't know if he was just still getting over his injury from Seabiscuit or something like that, and that's not a joke. Like, I'm being serious.
Yeah, I got you.
I hate the pizza delivery shit. You know, if I'm seeing...
You hate pizza time?
I love the line, pizza time. I hate the idea that millions and millions of dollars went into the sequence of Spider-Man delivering pizzas instead of, say, fighting criminals or the Shocker or anything.
I gotcha.
Which was one of those things that I remember,
compare the opening of Spider-Man 2 to Amazing Spider-Man 2. Ignore everything else about both of the films.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 starts with Spider-Man fucking bombastic, taking down terrorists, riding cars, fucking saving all these nuke things, webbing up the bad guy. It's fucking awesome! Like, that's how you start a Spider-Man movie.
It's weird because it's like, it's one of the things I remember, like, other comic nerds, it was like, why don't they start one of these movies, one of these Spider-Mans, Batmans, like, with them fighting, like, a villain you're not going to use for the whole movie, but, like, just to, like, throw you into the action, because these are supposed to be action movies.
Yeah, but the way, and this was a problem with other superhero movies, I don't want to, like, target Sam or the Spider-Man trilogy for this, but I've always had that problem where, like, apparently in these universes, nothing fucking happens for 2 straight years.
Yeah.
and then a new villain shows up and shit happens, and then it goes back to like nothing's fucking happening for 2
That
straight
felt to me
years.
too.
Like I like hearing about stuff happened in between, or maybe there's other things happening. I don't know. I remember when they first announced The Dark Knight Rises was going to be 8 years later. I was like, man, I hope there's a scene where Alfred sits down and says, "Hey, Mr. Wayne, remember when we fought the Penguin and the Riddler and Poison Ivy?" And just like named characters for 15 minutes. I want to watch Michael Caine name Batman characters for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
I would love it if he just encountered all those people in Burma.
that'd be great.
One time in Burma, I fought a penguin man. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead, in those 8 years, I guess we're left to believe that Bruce Wayne turned into Green Arrow, but only in his house. He grew a little.
I mean, he just gave up. I have my own problems with that.
He shot some arrows, grew a little Van Dyke, and was like, "Yeah, I'm Oliver Queen."
But that is a negative to me in this film. Even though, like, I don't want to specify it, and I like acknowledge that it's a problem with a lot other movies, it still exists in here. Is that Spider-Man has been around for 2 years and he has zero history, and that takes a lot away from the character to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's just been delivering pizzas, I guess, for 2 years. I hate him losing his powers. I think that whole plot line is contrived. I think it's a wall blocking you from getting to the better stuff instead of being anything interesting. I'm not against the idea of him having an existential crisis and like him dealing with that and like, oh shit, what's happening? But it's like, if you're sad, you don't lose the ability to walk.
Exactly.
That's what his superpowers are. They're just an innate part of his being. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It drives me crazy.
I do remember, and even in rewatches, that part, like, it feels like a drag because it's like, it takes Spider-Man out of the Spider-Man movie.
Yes. I'm not personally, this is super personal, it's not really a negative on the film. I'm just not a fan of the arms taking over Otto. Because I would be fine with Otto just being overconfident on his own.
Yeah,
me too.
That was a discussion Bryan and I have had. I think actually when the new movie came out, like the Raimi movies are just full of villains that aren't really bad. They're like, it's a science thing gone wrong. And
that's why I fucking love Topher Grace, that motherfucker. He just loves being evil.
He's just evil, praying to kill Peter Parker. It's
great. But yeah, it's just like Otto has always been an overconfident asshole. That's his downfall.
Yeah, he's an idiot. Well, I mean, he's a smart idiot, but he's also a creep.
Yeah.
And we learn he's kind of irredeemable. At least the real Otto Octavius. I mean, he's got good points, but like the movie's like, he's a good guy that got taken over by some arms, which that was a point I remember in the theater. It's like, oh, he's making, this reactor. It's basically a sun, and the problem is like nobody in that crowd was like, holy crap, you just made these arms that attach to your spine?
Right, no one cares.
You paralysis.
Can we talk about this?
Turn that off. We're going to go ahead and have this. I mean, Christopher Reeve's still alive. He's going to love this.
He's going to have a great time. I thought the whole, again, about Mary Jane, getting back to this complaint, her marrying John is completely trite and is a waste of fucking time. It's a waste of fucking time. I feel so bad for John Jameson, who is also a poor innocent victim of Mary Jane's selfish rage and malicious attitude.
Yeah, and it's such a weird thing that, like, I mean, this movie does it, and then like a few years later, Superman Returns did pretty much the same thing.
No, that's different because Superman was gone for 5 fucking years. I don't blame anyone for moving on when your love is gone for half a decade. That's different.
I mean, just introducing a character to be like, it's like, there's nothing wrong with him.
Well, the other difference is that Lois didn't just immediately leave her husband as soon as Clark came back, unlike what Mary Jane does, leaving her fiancé at the altar.
Yeah.
The day of the wedding. What the fuck?
Maybe there was a conscious decision to just destroy Mary Jane as a character, which...
It seems that way.
Actually,
she wasted thousands of dollars on that wedding. What an asshole.
Thousands and thousands.
Also, Peter takes off his mask way too fucking much in this goddamn movie.
Yeah, oh yeah. Like,
I don't mind the train scene on its own. Like, if the train scene was it, I totally buy that, like, 30 people on a subway car wouldn't fucking know who this guy is and wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
He's just this really regular looking guy. But
Exactly.
I think that comes down to, I think it was hard for him to talk an actor into, it's like, well, you're going to play a superhero and we're going to cover your face for every single scene. Like, I mean, they find every way to like destroy that mask in a way that you could,
Yeah.
here's Toby, or take it off, or what have you. And it always struck me as weird. And that was, I think, this being the first one with a masked superhero where, like, let's take off the masks. Like, no.
Well, again, like I don't mind it as much when it's like you said, when the mask is getting destroyed during the final fight. That's one thing. When Peter's like running up to this dude that has been trying to murder him and Mary Jane the whole film, is like, "Hey, it's me!" Like, whoa, fucking pump the brakes, Peter. What the fuck?
It's like, it's me, I'm Spider-Man. So Spider-Man 2. Anybody got anything else to add?
I think we went over everything I could think of.
Yeah. So now, I guess we'll move on, because you surprised me with Spider-Man 2 being your least favorite. Spider-Man 3 is generally, I think, I would guess a majority of people that watching.
Absolutely, the majority. Yeah.
I would say is like, it's hated. I remember seeing it in the theater and like coming out and like, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
And
I definitely like it more now than when I first saw it.
Yeah, I was the same way. I think I've watched it a couple of times the past few years, and each time I'm like, I do like it more because, first of all, like, this is probably the heaviest on the Peter and Mary Jane stuff,
No.
and both of them are awful.
I absolutely hate. Like, I rewatched it last night, and I actually enjoyed the film overall way more than I remembered. But
Mhm.
I despise Mary Jane in it. I was just getting mad at her over and over.
Especially when they introduce Gwen, who's actually acting like Mary Jane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like she
Look at
should
this
have been
really
Mary
cute,
Jane.
beautiful model that's really nice to you, Peter, who isn't being a total fucking asshole, who's like, oh, I got mean reviews in my show. Oh, well, for years people sent me death threats. Maybe I have some advice. Shut up, Peter! This isn't about you. Whoa, your fucking significant other is trying to offer advice with something he has direct experience with. How dare he? You're right. Now, fuck Peter for the kiss. I'm on Mary Jane's side for that.
We're having that conversation.
Yeah, I was like, he could have said, it's like, Spider-Man's taken, and that would have been the end of that. Then he wouldn't have really had, she wouldn't have had any grounds to really criticize him.
I mean, he could have also said something immediately to Mary Jane. He could have been like, "Hey, sorry, I was on stage. I was playing it up to the crowd. That was, I'm sorry if that made you uncomfortable. I know her, but she didn't know I was Spider-Man, so it's weird now." But he didn't do that because he's also not a great person in these movies.
Which I will say, Spider-Man 3. I mean, getting away from Mary Jane and everything.
How can you?
No, you can't, because it's interminable. It does do the thing. It starts the movie off with an actual action sequence.
Yes.
That is very good until I feel like Harry should have been decapitated.
He had super strength.
Yeah. Well, he's all cranked up on goblin form.
Yeah, he's on that goblin juice.
Yeah, he's on the goblin roids.
And it was a skateboard, to be fair, or a
snowboard.
It's a hoverboard.
But I like that sequence, and I think, honestly, this is where, and you said James Franco, like, once he is the hero at the end, but it's like, he's the MVP of this movie.
I agree.
Like, God, the scene in the diner where, he's just so smug.
So good.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah.
And then he ducks, because he doesn't have fucking super speed. He's hiding under that table in that diner. And everyone around him is like, what the fuck is that guy doing?
He's doing an army crawl out of the just to mess with Peter. He's great. And I wish they'd given him more to do in this movie. I
hate his amnesia story.
Yeah, it's kind of like Peter losing his powers. It's like, okay, so we're gonna waste this character for some screen time. And from what I understand is that Spider-Man 3 was supposed to be Spider-Man 3 and 4,
which would have been better. It would have erased all my major problems with it, which is the rushing of Venom at the end.
Well, Here's part of the problem. Like that's kind of still a rumor. We aren't sure if that's how true that is.
Yeah.
What is known based on the script that leaked is that like everyone wants to blame Sony for forcing Sam to add Venom, and now that's too many villains and too much story. But the original script was the same, except it was Vulture instead of Venom.
Yeah.
Sandman still kills Uncle Ben. There's still a new Goblin, and now the Vulture is just there instead of Venom. There's still too many villains when the core story is again Mary fucking Jane. God damn it. So like to me, Venom is my other favorite part of the movie. Because Topher is such a fucking comic book nerd that he's like doing everything he can to quote what Venom would sound like whenever he's allowed to speak. That I'm having a blast every time he's on screen.
Yeah,
I absolutely love his version of Eddie Brock, which to me just seems like an evil Peter Parker, which I kind of like that direction. But to me, once they actually get to Venom, it's too short. It's just like
It is too
you get
short.
him for this little bit, then we kill him.
yeah. Somehow, if it would have been moved up by a little bit, so we got more actual Topher with the symbiote.
I really like this Venom design. I wish that the spider was bigger and actually whites to be prominent, but I like that it's kind of like a jagged web design since it was on Peter's suit first. I've always been a fan of lean Venom. I don't like Hulk Venom.
Yeah, well, once you reach to this monstrous proportions, it's like,
And the way Sam directs Venom is pure horror. Like I forgot that when I rewatched Spider-Man 3 for the first time in a long time, I forgot like how horror-ish the entire end sequence is when it's just Peter and Venom for a little bit. Like Peter doesn't know where the fuck he is. His screeches are like terrifying.
Yeah, I actually like the whatever they did with Topher's teeth too.
Yeah.
Like the symbiote is changing him. Like he's not just like
that was actually pretty neat.
This isn't like he's giving into this thing. God, there's a lot of criticisms about Spider-Man 3.
I will say one of mine.
No, I will criticize that
you
bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Because that's Norman wasn't completely in control of himself. And we get that whole plot point in the most recent Spider-Man movie. Octavius wasn't in control of himself. So then we end up with a villain that's not even a bad person that made a bad call. And it was like, at this point, it was like, how sympathetic these villains need to be.
Fair enough.
I mean, I like that with Sandman because I like the idea straight up. I liked it with Elektra. I don't want to get ahead again, but I like the idea that it's just like, this is a guy that wasn't that bad of a person. He just got flung into the shitty situation, and now he's fighting Spider-Man. And this is what's happening. And especially with, Flint, that's basically what it was in the comics, too. He was always a very much blue-collar crook that so happened to get powers. He very rarely was like, oh, I'm going to do all this damage and destroy the city. Like, I just want to get some money, man.
Yeah,
that's it.
I do love Thomas Hayden Church in this.
Yeah.
I don't like that he killed Uncle Ben.
Yes, exactly.
I know that they did that to make Spider-Man want to fight him, even when Flint didn't want to fight. But it's like, it's jarring.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be there.
Done that.
I think they could have gotten that just if Spider-Man had, because this is the first you fought guys with robot arms and a guy that's strong, but like you're fighting a guy with like crazy superpowers for symbiote.
He's immortal now.
Embarrassed or beaten down for him to actually have that much aggression. Yeah. They could have gotten to that point without, the Sandman killed Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
One of my criticisms, and I have this with the 90s show too, which is what introduced this fucking shit. I hate the suit making a person bad. I hate that. I hate it so much. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in comic books, period. Because in the original 80s story, which, I'm sure you guys fucking know because you read them, it did nothing bad to Peter except make him tired because he kept taking it off. Like, it's a symbiote that needed to live, so whenever it was on him, it was sucking more juice than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah.
Aside from that, it was a benign force of neutral that was learning to be good from Peter, and it was an innocent, and then Peter abandoned it out of fear, which is one of the rare times of Peter being irresponsible in spite of his great power. And that is way more interesting as to why the suit becomes bad and like hates Peter and that sort of thing. You brought me as like basically an adolescent to this alien planet and then left me for dead.
Yeah.
Versus, oh yeah, the suit's making you super evil, so you have to take it off. That's fucking boring. I don't fucking like that. I much prefer the Venom movies where the suit is having a blast
Yeah,
and he's like really nice and doesn't make Eddie a worse person. That's what the suit should be.
yeah. I think we'll touch on those. I think at the end too, or maybe we'll talk about them now because we were talking about the Spider-Man movie with Venom. I do enjoy those, especially like it's not the Venom from the comics, but it. I love that take on it.
Yeah, I
See,
love
to
it.
me, that is the Venom from the comics. We just didn't hear the suit at the time when Venom was like that.
Yeah, well,
Like, that is very much 90s
But I
Lethal
will say
Protector Venom
that
when he's a little wacky.
this Eddie Brock definitely Eddie Brock from the comics, because Eddie Brock
Yes.
from the comics was never that clever, never that fun, never. Yeah,
Yeah. I like both the Venom movies. I think that they're really fun buddy cop movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
But those movies base their success entirely on whether or not you like the Eddie suit relationship.
yes.
And I love that relationship. So those movies work a lot for me.
and I think Bryan, yeah, you didn't initially like the first one.
What Venom?
Yeah,
No, my problem with the first Venom had nothing to do with anything except I thought the villains were lame.
well, yeah, they were.
Yeah. Well, they
That's
picked
like the only
fucking
problem I had
Riot,
with it.
who's gray Venom. You couldn't have picked Lasher, who's at least cyan blue, or Scream, the hot, cool yellow female symbiote.
Yeah.
No, you picked literally the most boring
Yeah,
symbiote to be the first villain.
which I'm like, we went to see the last one. I've seen it a couple of times, and my son asked me, it was like, who's going to be the villain in the third one? Which
Well-
the symbiotes are there? It's like that's pretty much all he's going to fight him.
I told you if I would have picked who was the villain, it would have been Demogoblin. Like I would have went
Yeah.
away from symbiotes.
That's a whole lot of mythology to
Well,
claim. And really
I don't
fast.
care.
cares?
That's what
Yeah.
I would have done.
Well, Toxin is coming in the next film for sure.
Yeah, so get another symbiote.
Carnage's son.
So, Spider-Man 3. Now,
Okay, so I love the action scenes in Spider-Man 3. That entire subway sequence of him fighting Sandman is
Mhm.
fucking like I can't believe how good that is to this day. I love that entire fight. The subway system makes no fucking sense.
Mhm.
It's a weird Lovecraftian underground under New York City apparently, where reality doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But I don't fucking care.
I love after he fought Sandman having to dump all the sand out of his boots and all that. Like I love that
Oh, yeah,
he took the
that's fun.
time for all that.
which were related to Sandman. Actually, Spider-Man 3's got my second favorite sequence in all the Raimi movies. That's the kind of the rebirth of Flint Marko after he's
It's beautiful.
basically, granulized
Yeah.
and putting himself back together. And it's like, and that's right behind the Doc Ock sequence in the second one. I think that's a fantastic sequence.
I think at the time audiences didn't appreciate it, but I love emo Peter because it's what a fucking nerd thinks a cool guy is.
Exactly.
And I love the reactions the girls were giving him. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like no one in the movie is like, yeah, this is great.
And that was I had a lot of nitpicks of that movie coming out of it. That wasn't one of them. It's like, oh no, I love dancing, dig on this, Peter.
I love Dig on that. I love the jazz club scene.
I love the wind blowing through Gwen's hair and all that. Yeah,
It's so great. That's the kind of cheese I want. Feed me
Yeah.
more of that cheese.
That's like a sticking point for a lot of people. Like, it's so stupid. It's
yeah.
like, it's supposed to be stupid.
Yeah.
Peter is a lame, cool guy.
That's an argument I have with a lot of people just about movies in general. There's a lot of people that seem to think something that's silly on purpose is bad,
yeah.
and I don't get it.
Or,
Um,
and I think we've had this discussion as well about people seem to have a thought that if something comes off as ridiculous or goofy, that it was an accident, and that
Yeah.
no, it's like, and we've gone back and forth over The Happening, M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm still in. It's like he knew exactly what he was doing in that thing,
yeah.
and
Fucking people have given Carousel bad ratings because they thought it was a serious horror film. I don't know how.
how did they not see the Carousel
The movie?
cover?
I'm like, I don't get that.
The director, he must have lost control of the project.
Yeah, like it floats away, and you think I'm trying to go for scares here. People are stupid. I hate saying that, but sometimes that's the only fucking answer.
Yeah,
I
unfortunately,
remember even when I first saw the movie, that I did think it was really funny to me that like they play off Peter hitting MJ as like this ultimate sin, and it's like five dudes were like on him, and he was just like pushing them off, and then Mary Jane for some reason decided to be one of them with his back turned, and he like barely slapped her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
And
like
again, Hank Pym slapped his wife once, and he's a wife beater forever.
Through a wall.
I mean, which I mean, you said it's like, you know who I really feel bad for in that scene is Gwen Stacy.
Gwen,
yes. That.
Gwen is too good of a person for either of those motherfuckers.
Yeah, so much of a waste of Bryce Dallas Howard too. It's like you finally get the actress in these movies that probably should have been MJ all along, and it's like,
oh god, yes.
I don't even know how many lines she has. It's probably less than 10.
And she is easily the part that like is most interesting when she comes on screen. I'm just like drawn, but she's given so little.
It's a huge bummer. It's very annoying.
Okay, let's see. Let's
and the climax scene is fun.
Yeah, I could,
but not as good as the subway sequence. But it's worth it at least to see it's Spider-Man and a friend fighting two villains, and that at that point was unique. You know, you never got to see Spider-Man fight with someone else, and I like Harry going good. Yeah. I hate the amnesia thing, but I like the idea of this story going a different way than the comics did, where Harry's like, you know what, he is my friend.
Yeah,
I believe him. My dad was not a good person. I've been wrong. I like that a lot.
Which we were talking about cheese that worked, and for me, one that didn't was the news cut-ins during during that whole sequence. I'm like, what is going on?
I hate those. Yeah,
it's like that and the Osborne Butler. I think are the two things that like
such a weird choice.
It was like, you couldn't have told Harry this before he blew the family fortune, and I don't know, was horribly disfigured by Spider-Man, and you know, went on this whole like grudge hunt for the Spider. Like, you could have spoke up any time, like, hey, your dad was the Green Goblin, and they were self-inflicted wounds because I did the autopsy. Apparently,
he cleaned the wounds like he was when he found the body. Well, Goblin Jr. had to cry. That's what it comes down to.
That's how he became a good person. That's how you know Peter is a good person. He cries a lot.
Yes.
So let's leave Spider-Man 3 in the dust.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move forward to The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay, so Brian's already told me, and I was thinking like we could hold off and we'd all talk about this later.
Let's go ahead and do it now.
Okay, like favorite Spider-Man actor. So let's
Garfield.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
same here.
And I was like, well, if we're all on the same page, and we may as well just talk about it when we talk about Amazing Spider-Man. And let's just go ahead and talk about him starting off, because he's the MVP of his own movies, which is not something you could say about Tobey.
Well, I want to say right now, in Amazing Spider-Man, one of his, the earliest scenes of Spider-Man with the carjacker, that scene sold me on this is Spider-Man. Like him being like, oh, my one weakness, really small knives. That is the most Spider-Man thing ever from any movie.
Yeah, I love it. And it's like, there's things I don't like about the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but
none of them have to do with him, and none of them have to do with the cast, really.
None of them have to do with the Peter and Gwen relationship either.
One of the things that I want to lead with is that I feel like a lot of people on the internet that didn't like Andrew at the time or still claim that they don't like him because they want to seem like cool people, is that they don't like his Peter because Peter's too cool. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's awkward, he's anxious, he's not good around other people, he's not good around girls. He's like, well, he rides a skateboard. I'm like, do you know how I know you're not one of the cool kids? Because you think riding a skateboard is cool.
The
last time riding a skateboard was cool was when Tony Hawk did the fucking 900.
I want to argue with those people that seem to think that Tobey's, Peter Parker or whatever was better. Is I'm like, the only time in the comics really that Spider-Man was treated, or I'm sorry, Peter Parker was treated that way was during like the 60s.
Like the first 3 years tops.
Yeah.
That's it. Otherwise, he's confident. He's like,
and
he is a good-looking guy.
Even in the 60s, he was arrogant. Like, I mean, he was very arrogant.
Yeah.
This is the perfect Peter Parker and the perfect Spider-Man to me. Like, some people be like, "Oh, Tobey was better as Peter and Andrew's better as Spider-Man." Like, no, Andrew was the best at all of it.
I'm totally on board with that. The first time I saw it, I'm like I don't like the costume in Amazing Spider-Man, the basketball texture
Yeah.
costume, but man, Andrew Garfield, he was the there, even in the '60s, there was an anger to Peter,
Yes.
and he brought that out, and it really kind of took me by surprise, the people that hated that the car thief scene. And it was like, oh, Spider-Man's just a jerk. I'm like, have you never read?
Yeah.
Spider-Man's
Have you
always
read
been
Spider-Man?
a jerk.
It's like he's good to good people, but man, he will lay into a criminal, he'll make them regret their life.
And
Oh, he'll do it to non-criminals. One of my favorites. It's not. I created a false memory just now because it doesn't exist in the comics. It's something that Todd McFarlane said he always wanted to do, but it's still a perfect Peter example. Is that Todd always wanted to do a scene where like Peter saves some guy from a mugger, and the mugger so happens to be a person of color, and the victim is a white guy, and the white guy says, "Oh, those filthy," and he uses the N-word, and then Peter jacks up the victim and says, "What color do you think I am under this mask?" And Peter does that shit. Like, that's Peter.
Yeah. I remember reading that same bit too. And I was like, it would have been fun to actually put in there. Like, it's something, Spider-Man would do.
Yeah. I am in love with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. In love. My heart flutters for them whenever they're on scene together. Every scene is fucking perfect. So Toby and Kirsten actually dated in real life. Andrew and Emma actually dated in real life. And yet Toby and Kirsten feel like wet cardboard when they're on screen. And Emma and Andrew feel like fucking soulmates.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's jarring how much more chemistry they have.
Well, I mean, you could have dropped Mary Jane straight on the concrete at the end of the first Spider-Man. It's like, he'll live. He'll be fine. He'll find
Felicia will show up. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll get a dog or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like the fucking scene where Uncle Ben embarrasses him in front of his crush. He's got you on his computer. Oh, I was just touching you up. Oh, you were touching me up. I'm not gonna answer that. It's like, I love them. I want to hug them both.
I really love in this that Martin Sheen's Uncle Ben.
He brings a lot of heart to Uncle Ben, and you really feel the relationship between him and Peter. I also really like Sally Field as May. I like that older May, but not fucking gonna get killed by some wind May.
It's like, you got both feet in the grave, May.
Yeah.
Which
Flash Thompson also doesn't get enough credit in this film. This is the best live-action Flash Thompson by far, where he's a bully, but you see where the friendship and between him and Peter start, and the Flash is a good person at heart. Like, the scene of him, like, I just wanted to say I'm sorry about your uncle dying, is like heartbreaking.
Yeah. There's so much I love about the Amazing Spider-Man. It's like, and all the stuff I don't is stuff that would have been easy to fix. I don't like how dark the movie is, because I think the symptom of that was like, let's do Twilight and Dark Knight, Twilight for the girls, Dark Knight for the guys, and we'll make Andrew's hair bigger, and
he's a Saiyan. He can't help it. It's just how his hair grows.
Yeah, but it was everything that I don't like is minor. I think this could have been the perfect Spider-Man movie if some of those decisions hadn't been made.
Yeah,
I think they made them.
I don't like the suit on a personal level. I like that the webs are flat. To your point before, I like that it does seem more homemade.
Yeah, that's one of the
even though it looks great.
Because there was no explanation on how he made that suit in the original. I'm like, there's no way he made that.
I forgot to say, in the first movie, when Peter's sketching all these amazing drawings, I'm like, do you know how to sew?
Yeah. And then I don't even think a person that knows how to sew could make that suit. Like, you got to be some sort of special designer.
We're going to fuse neoprene to itself.
But what I can appreciate as a creator, as a fan, I'm not a fan of the suit personally, but as a creator, it's a change to the suit while still being perfectly recognizable as Spider-Man. It's not like the Alex Ross design where it's like, this much of Spider-Man and the rest is just black. It's like it's got the blue, it's got the red, it's got the mask, it's got the shape. Everything is Spider-Man, just different.
Yeah.
And I think the point, I'm not Mark Webb, I can't talk to this, but I think the point is that Peter in this film is vengeance. He is more selfish. He has this selfish motivation to hunt someone down. He's not really Spider-Man yet, so his suit kind of reflects that darker aspect.
Yeah.
And then it's updated to a much brighter actual Spider-Man suit in the sequel. So I think that's the creative idea behind it, is that he looks more sinister because he is.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely has more like alien vibe to that with the lenses and everything. It's just he looks, I wouldn't say less human, but definitely more alien. And I think
one thing.
Go ahead. I think from a business standpoint, I think that not necessarily that design, but the change was so they have a clear marker of like, this is not the last movies.
Yeah.
This is different.
One thing that I like about the suits in both of the Amazing films is how much it looks like a fucking suit.
Yep.
Like in the Raimi movies, it's like you can tell it's all one piece. That's not a fucking separate mask.
Yeah.
You're like, how the fuck does Peter get into that? In the MCU movies, when we get to that, they touch up the whole fucking thing in CGI, and I fucking hate it. It looks like fucking trash. And in this, it's like you can see the zipper. Like you can see where the mask separates in the back. Like this is a dude in a suit that you can actually put on, and you see how he puts it on, and I love that. It makes it seem so much more fucking real.
Yeah.
Like they didn't try to make it look perfect because it's not.
I think this is the first movie in all, or actually the only movie in all the Spider-Man movies to where Spider-Man moves and fights the way I always imagined him in the comic.
I love the lizard fight in the school.
It's so great.
He's just using his speed. He's webbing him up, and it's like
he's crawling all over him like a fucking spider.
I remember one of my favorite Spider-Man comics is him fighting the Juggernaut, and you see like these like trace images of Spider-Man all around, indicating that he's moving so ridiculously fast, and this movie captured it.
Yes, I completely agreed. I love the way. I love that he makes a fucking web in the sewer. This is the most Spider-Man.
He does that, and then he's like he's playing Snake on his phone. Just waiting for it's like that's there's been plenty of times in the comics where it's like Peter's just waiting for something. He's like it's like eating a hot dog or
we got the web shooters in this one, obviously, and I don't mind. I don't mind that is just like he orders his first batch from Oscorp, and I think he makes it himself from there. I think that's the idea.
Fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Like he got a baseline, but he's the one that figured out the propulsion. He's the one that figured out how to put it into a smaller device. He just needed a starting point, and that's fine. He's fucking 18.
Yeah.
I like the way Lizard looks. I know a lot of people don't.
I'm not a fan of that myself.
I'm not a big fan. Like I want Lizard to be smaller for one, and I don't like the flat face.
Yeah, he felt like a Pokemon evolution of like Lord Voldemort.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. Like, I'm not going to argue with you guys. Like, that's not a hill I would die on.
I feel like that the human side of the Lizard maybe is a little bit too bad seeming from the start.
A little bit more sinister than he.
That is just the Lizard taking over. I think that's just the Lizard taking over.
And that's fair. I actually think that's a good point.
Because as soon as he's cured in the ending, like even shown in the film, as soon as like he gets the cure and there's no more Lizard, first thing he does is save Peter.
Yeah.
And and the second thing he does is, oh shit, the cop.
Yeah.
Like there's no sinister attitude there. So I like that's a Jekyll and Hyde thing.
Oh, and I freaking love Captain Stacy in this too.
Oh yeah. Dennis Leary's Captain Stacy was a really good choice. I love how bad at lying Peter is in this film and in the sequel. Literally face to face with Gwen Stacy, the employee of Oscorp, saying, I work here. No, I don't. You would know that. Why would I say that?
I love them making this version of Gwen Stacy as smart, or maybe even smarter than Peter. Like I actually like that.
This Gwen is better than comics Gwen.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Agreed.
See,
the exact opposite of Mary Jane in the previous series.
See, we talked about how much, which I'm with you, like disliking Toby taking the mask off. And Andrew does that in this one, and I love that scene when
Well, I actually think it works for this.
yeah. When
He gets demasked by someone else and is hiding his face the whole time, and only reveals it when he literally has no choice. And in the end sequence, Kurt already knows he's Peter, so it's not as big.
I mean,
a deal.
it was this one where he saves the kid in the car, right?
Yes, and it's
And he takes
beautiful.
all
I
the-
love that. I'm just a guy.
yeah, he's
Like
like
I meet kids as Spider-Man. Some kids are terrified of Spider-Man because there's nothing.
Yeah,
There's no eyes, there's no nose, there's no mouth, there's no recognizable human features. So when I see that scene, I feel that scene. Like, that is what you should do. That is what Spider-Man would do. He would be like, no, it's just me. I'm just a guy. Put on the mask. It's going to be awesome. I fucking love that scene. I love Andrew. I love these movies.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's go on to the second one. We were talking about the suit, and this is my favorite Spider-Man costume.
It is by far the best looking
Absolutely.
Spider-Man costume.
I mean, from the very second we see it, coming in from the logo on the back, and you see the wind like actually blowing it, like you said, like it's
blowing the fabric. Yeah.
fantastic. And we
even
go
in like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like even in like the marketing material, they have like folds and shit, like where his armpit is. Like, they've made the very conscious decision of being like, this needs to look like a suit and not like a video game. And I miss that.
Yeah, it's still to this day that's the most perfect Spider-Man suit we've seen on film so far.
And I love the big eyes. Like, I'm a huge fan of big eye Spider-Man.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And it has the raised webbing, but by making it black as opposed to like the silver in the Raimi movies, I think it works way better.
Yeah.
And I love the spider symbol on the chest and the back. I love how big it is.
Let's see.
The web shooters look way cooler in this movie too. I like their like horizontal sort of design. That's a minor thing, but I fucking notice it every single time.
Yeah, I think that's nice too.
That's it. Like, there's a lot, and you just watched it the other
night.
night.
I just watched it the other night.
The movie it's a mess.
It is my favorite live-action Spider-Man movie.
Really?
My number one. There are things I can complain about in it, but for me, there's less I complain about in this than any other Spider-Man movie.
I think this probably has the most that I would complain about, but
that's the case for a lot of people.
It's also like, it's never like one of those where I'm like, I don't want to watch that. Like, if it's on, I'm watching it. And there's a lot I like. I like the opening sequence. I love, after that, like, Spider-Man, like, repairing the kid's science project.
I love Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
Angry yelling Paul Giamatti. Again, Peter and Gwen are great in this. I like Electro. I kind of wish he had been, I don't know, the main villain rather than.
Well, I'd argue he's still the main villain. Harry is definitely the supplemental villain. He's the backup.
I think, to me, like, Electro gets taken out. Spoilers. But it's like, it's almost anticlimactic. You took out the main villain, not easily, but like,
and then the climax comes with
the secondary villain.
Yeah,
that works for me. I'm not saying that your take is wrong at all, but it really works for me. I mean, let me say my cons, because my list is going to be way shorter. Then I'll let you guys say what you don't like, and then I'm just going to fucking gush, because I fucking would marry this movie.
All right.
Okay. This is in my top 5 favorite superhero movies of all time, to be clear. This movie makes me... Anyway, the things I don't like. Very short list. I think that the opening plane action scene is dumb and pointless, and I didn't need to see that. I don't mind the idea of actually seeing Peter's parents more in this series, but I didn't need that, and I think it is a rough open as opposed to just opening on Spider-Man's logo falling.
Yeah. Agreed.
The entire Father and Roosevelt story was just wasted time. I would cut all of that out. I really like Harry in this movie a lot.
Yeah,
but him not being in the first movie at all rushes the friendship, and that hurts the relationship.
Agreed.
The blood plot line I like. I like the idea of adding in a reason why the spider affects Peter specifically.
Yeah.
And why it wouldn't help Harry. But if I was making the movie, when he threw the calculator, instead of finding tokens, he would have found a USB stick and plugged it in, and there's the dad's video explaining how he made the spider blood. There you go. You just saved 15 minutes of him finding a secret fucking subway.
That's fair.
And the only the airplane part of the climax was unneeded. I get that they were trying to raise the stakes, but I don't fucking care about anyone on those fucking airplanes. I'm already seeing
That
May
was
at the
completely
hospital for the
unhinged. I
human
agree.
connection. I'm already seeing like the city has no power. I understand that New York is fucked right now. And you
Yeah.
got May at the hospital for like raising the stakes.
And
You don't also need the
every
plane.
time it cuts to that, I just like want it to go away. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing because
But to me, that's it. Those are my only complaints with the fucking movie, and that's like nothing compared to everything else that I've complained about for the Raimi movies and what I'm going to complain about.
uh,
So what do you guys also like not like as much?
I'm with you on pretty much everything you mentioned. I really don't care about Peter's parents in any way, and any time spent dwelling on them is just a waste. I don't like the fact that they introduced Norman Osborn and cast Chris Cooper to give him one scene and then kill him off screen.
And that's what I say too, because I'm like, Chris Cooper is way too good to just be like, that.
Just like, here you go, Mr. Oscar winner. Just lay in this bed and here's some fake nails.
I
Uh,
mean, when I saw the movie for even the first time, my immediate takeaway as we didn't see a body.
yeah,
That's fair.
and
Yeah, like
I know they were
that is
planning a bunch of
exactly how I
these,
took it.
and
And like, there's all those rumors where like Chris Cooper was like saying like, "Oh, they were bringing me back in the third," and people took that the wrong way that he was like coming back from the dead and shit. It's like, no, I just think he didn't die, guys.
Yeah. And like maybe that was something we would have seen if it would have continued.
yeah.
Yeah,
See,
if
I'm not a fan of Jamie Foxx as Maxwell Dillon before Electro. It's like it gives me, and you say Superman 3
And
and it's
so
like,
I actually disagree with you on that. I enjoy the him before part. Like to me, that's fun. But like like I say, it gives me Superman 3 vibes. Like it's almost as if Richard Pryor's character became a villain. Kind
yeah, yeah.
and
Um, I mean, I like it. I don't want to like star on my gush. I'm just gonna be like, "Hey, you guys done? All right, now shut the fuck up." But yeah, like, uh, I like Loser Max. I think that he's somewhat relatable to anyone that was like an outcast at any point in their life. You know, I think that people overplay his obsession with Spider-Man. Like he's a fan and he thinks there's more there than there is, but like that's it. He's otherwise still his own person. He's a loser, and then once he gets, and that's what leads him into being a villain once he gets that power. I think that him being such a like a outcasted loser that no one pays attention to is vital to why he goes bad. This is a good person that gets power that makes them bad. You know,
Yeah.
power corrupts. That's
yeah.
the theme with Electro.
Let's see.
Sorry, continue.
I'm trying to think of like my final bash, and it's not really it's not really so much. It's just after the death of Gwen,
Mhm.
and this is just simply because of like there's really nothing else for the movie to do, but we jump pretty quickly in our time, and we see seasons pass and everything,
Yeah.
but like in the viewer's time, it's like, oh, he's fine now. He's Spider-Man now.
Yeah, and that's my major gripe too. I'm like the death of Gwen Stacy to Peter Parker is the single most important point next to the death of Uncle Ben. And I'm like, for them to, and I know that it's supposed to be within his time a long time, but within the movie, so quickly have him move beyond that. Like, I would have just simply been like, okay, we see him, he's sad. End of movie, we see him recover in the next movie. Would have
I
probably been the way.
don't think he recovered.
Well, no, I agree
movies.
with you, but the end of that movie made it seem like he bounced back pretty cool. It really feels like that, even though I know technically the time, he had, but I think it's an editing issue. Like I feel like they should have let it breathe. It should have breathed
Okay.
within the movie.
I don't know what they could have put in there.
I don't know either, really, but like
No, that's okay. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to have the answer. To quote Neil Gaiman, if someone tells you that your story doesn't work, they're almost always work for them. They're almost always right. If they tell you exactly how to fix your story, they're almost always wrong.
yeah,
Like it's totally legitimate for you to just be like, this didn't work. How do you fix it? I don't know. I'm just telling you it didn't work.
yeah.
All right, so we done bagging on it.
Well, I'm just going to throw out how much I loved that they did the death of Gwen Stacy, and even though it's different location, they nailed it. Like the shooting the web and then the snap.
Mhm.
All right, so let's go ahead and gush because I mean, there's a lot of even me. It's like there's a lot of good, but go for
The
it.
the fucking theme of this movie and like overall themes to films really fucking matters to me a
Yeah.
lot as a consumer, as a creator. The theme of this movie is Peter's fighting time. The entire movie he's fighting time. In the opening, he's trying to finish as fast so he can get to graduation. He's dealing with time. Harry's time is running out.
Yeah.
The time of trying to get Electro to everything is about fighting time. Leading up to him literally fighting time by trying to stop the clock to save Gwen's life, and he can't stop time. He can't fight time. Time will always win, and that's fucking beautiful. And I feel like no one ever fucking talks about it. And it is one of the best consistent and realized themes in a superhero movie to me, and it blows me away every time. It's like every single time he puts his foot on that fucking gear, and you can see the desperation through the mask. And I say it out loud every time. I've seen the movie. I don't even know how many fucking times, and every time it's like he's fighting time. This is so fucking great. I fucking love it. I fucking love that Spider-Man is happy being Spider-Man because Toby in all of his 3 movies are like, I don't know if I can be Spider-Man. I don't like being Spider-Man. No, fuck that. Peter Parker fucking loves being
I
Spider-Man.
love the part where he's with the fireman and he's got the fireman's cap on.
Yeah, Fireman
like,
head, he's fucking swinging. It's the fucking, oh god, it's great.
Yeah.
Again, I love the opening action scene. I said that earlier in the episode. I love the whole chase. I love, catching Paul Giamatti. I love Paul Giamatti in the scene. He's a fucking blast. I like Electro's design, but I was always a fan of that design for the Ultimate
I have
Comics.
issues with him just being this weird blue-looking thing. Like I prefer, like even if he had the same exact design, I would have rather it been like a yellow electricity rather than the blue.
That's fine. Yeah. Personally, I really like Harry's motivation in the film. I know some people on the internet have said that it's like weak and hollow. It's just like, no, fear of dying is like one of the most pure, genuine things that would drive a person to desperate measures. I'm like, part of it is I'm thanatophobic. I'm terrified of death. So when I'm seeing Harry like crying and freaking the fuck out after just seeing his dad die from the thing that he has, I get it. I'd also be offering Spider-Man boats.
I love the whole almost guilt that Peter had the entire movie because he had promised her dad that he would stay away from her, and yet he's not. And they kept bringing it all throughout the movie, and I love that. And then, of course, the ultimate climax, him doing the one thing that his dad feared, which is her dying.
Yes,
because of him.
But at the same time, I love that Gwen is her own person in this. Like,
yes, of course,
her entire thing in the last movie and in this one is just like, I'm my own person. The ghost of my father can't control my life.
Yeah,
and that's big. That's a very powerful moment for that character. She makes those choices, and I think that's great. I mean, every scene with Peter and Gwen in this movie is like 11 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking him accidentally revealing that he's been following her for months.
That part was great.
So fucking good. Like, that's Peter too. Like, oh yeah, I know that place. It just opened last month. I'm just gonna walk behind this tree for a minute. Yeah, that's how cool guys get out of this situation. And it's super cute. I love it. Sally Field. I like Sally in this. I know Sally outright has said that she's not a fan of her own performance in this movie, but I think
she was great
fine.
I feel she's kind of wasted a bit. Like, she's not given quite enough. Like they do set her up, like her going to school, become a nurse, and it's like
try to get money for like Peter's college and shit. I like that she's doing something.
Like, we only get not even a payoff, but like just kind of cutting to her like towards the end. It's like I don't, and that's another one where it's like I don't know what they would have done, but it's like.
Well, I feel with May, you don't need a payoff. She's just part of Peter's life. This is definitely not a May centralized story. Or Peter and May centralized story. I'm fine, personally speaking. Again, this is all subjective, but I'm fine with Maeve. She's kind of doing her own thing at the same time as Peter's dealing with the story that actually matters that we're following. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm fine with that in other movies too, where like, a character can have their own arc that doesn't matter necessarily to the plot.
Yeah, and I guess I would probably prefer that to. It felt in the Raimi ones, especially in the second one, Aunt May kind of adding to the plot felt shoehorned in.
Yeah.
So I'd rather avoid that. So yeah.
I love you mentioned Peter fixing the science project. My favorite part of that scene is I'm Spider-Man. I fucking say that to kids all the time. Like introducing myself as if they don't know who the fuck Spider-Man is. It's adorable. Peter is even worse at lying in this film, and I love it. Cleaning the chimney. Why the fuck would any human being say that? But whenever he says that line, I picture Peter with the bag of money being like, "What do I do?" And he throws all the money out the window. He's just like, "Why the fuck did I do that?"
I love when she says, "We have no chimney." He's like, "What?"
Yeah. And she doesn't question it because May knows. May knew in the first fucking movie when he came home battered and bruised. And I like that May knows but doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I love Electro's first introduction when he has the powers, that he's just confused and doesn't know what's happening and he's scared. And again, the internet likes to say, "Oh, Electro got mad and became a villain because Peter didn't remember him." That's not what fucking happens in the movie at all.
Yeah.
He even said, "Oh yeah, I understand. You don't recognize me because of how I fucking look." And then Peter's talking him down, and then Electro goes bad because he's mentally unwell. He had the attention, he had the spotlight for the first time ever in his life, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
So that triggers him. And also, a cop shot him. Yeah. After being promised that no one would shoot him. In an alternate universe, that cop never shoots him, and Peter and Electro were best friends.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the thing that set him off, the cop shooting him, for sure.
Whoa, a cop shooting a black guy for no reason? What are we talking about?
He was blue at the time, to be fair.
That's fair.
Well, yeah.
He wasn't white. That's why the cop didn't shoot at first. He's like, "Whoa, I do."
Let the bullets.
I love the music of this movie. This music is my favorite Spider-Man live-action music. Zimmer fucking is a god at music. He's one of my favorite composers, and I fucking love Electro's theme. I love his Spider-Man theme. I love the Goblin theme is so fucking spooky. I love it. When I am allowed to do the show editing for Marvel Live, I use the Amazing Spider-Man 2 soundtrack because I think it's that fucking good.
Cool.
I like that some people like Spider-Man and some don't. In the Raimi movies, everyone just talked about Spider-Man being awesome. There wasn't anyone saying fuck Spider-Man, he shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. You get the feeling Jameson's not very effective in his propaganda.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, and I love in this movie that we know that Jameson exists and is his boss.
Yes. And it's J.K. Simmons off screen. We just don't see it.
Yeah, it's gotta be. It's J.K. Simmons.
Not because it's a Spider-Man movie, but Andrew Garfield is an American who grew up in England. And when he's basically a British person playing an American person who then guesses what a British person says. Mm-hmm. And it's this weird inception of his real life culture and turning it upside down that I giggle every time that scene when he's in the, Oxford building, whatever that is. I like that Electro killed a douchebag CEO and then brought him back under the threat, I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
I like that Gwen is smart and useful and strong. I thought that the Itsy Bitsy Spider Park with Electro was fun.
I did too, rewatching it, yeah.
This is my favorite live-action Spider-Man action, all of it. Him in the opening, him against Electro is so fucking, super good. Peter keeps his mask on the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
In every fucking action scene, it never comes off. And you know what? Andrew acts through it because he's a fucking actor. When he's freaking out that Gwen is there, you don't need his mask off to see his face, to see his body move and be like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" It's great. I love the action, but the fight scene between Harry and Peter in the clock tower too, because it's before and after, I've never seen Spider-Man have such a claustrophobic fight before. There's no jumping, there's not that much web stuff. It is just brutal. We are close quarters. We are doing whatever we can to try to get one over on the other, and that's why it works for me. I didn't want to step on your point of it not working for you. I didn't want to argue. For me, it works because you had that big bombastic classic Spider-Man feel-good action scene with the main villain, and everyone thinks everything's over, and oh fucking no, now this fucking terrifying monster is here, and I don't like his look. but I love the way he plays him because I've always pictured Goblin as someone barely holding onto their fucking sanity.
Yeah.
Like he's tweaking, he can barely talk, and like I fucking love it. I love that he figures out Peter Spider-Man in like 2 seconds just using context clues.
Yeah.
And then you get that like brutal desperation fight. This isn't the superhero fight. This isn't the feel-good fight. This is Jesus fucking Christ. I need to stop him to save Gwen. It's a totally different follow-up to the big climax. That's why it works for me. If it was another big fight, I'd 100% be on your side. Like if it was the big electric fight and there was some big goblin flying through the city, I'd be like, why the fuck are you doing this back to back? This is boring. This wasn't boring to me. The web becoming a hand breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Losing Gwen is painful and real. The fact that she dies clearly on impact and Andrew is pleading to a corpse breaks my fucking. Like she's gone, as he's just like, don't leave me, don't leave me. She's been gone. There's no hope. But that's exactly what a person would probably do. And then him standing at the grave for months makes me sob. I'm tearing up just fucking remembering it to talk about it. Like that's what breaks me in this movie. Not literally her death, him just giving up and seasons passing by as he's standing over her grave for months and months. And then like months have passed and like he's home and he's clearly still broken and May's like, what's wrong? And Peter can't even answer. He's trying to lie through it, and May tries her best, and that's what I like about it is that it's not some like super wise proverb that May pulls out of her ass. She's just like trying to compare it because she knows what Peter's lost. It's being like Ben's gone forever, but if I accept it, at least the pain is lighter, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
And I like the movie ending with the Rhino fight because it's a great fucking establishment. Spider-Man is still fighting off screen in between these fucking movies, and nothing is happening between movies.
Well, here's my only negative I'll say about that ending scene, and that's the Rhino suit. I did not like the mechanized Rhino suit for Rhino.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm old school. I prefer a dude in a big, thick Rhino suit. I don't know.
No, I agree. I've never been a fan of like mechanical Rhino. It was done in like games and stuff before the movie.
And more than that, I don't like it riding on or going on all fours. Like something about that, like really stood out wrong to me.
I didn't mind that, but I could see why that doesn't work for you because Rhino doesn't really do that in the comics. And I don't mind the idea that Oscorp is making all this tech. I'm fine with that. Some people don't like that it's all coming from Oscorp, but
that's one of those things I didn't care for. It's like, and not to like every extent. Like as soon as I see Doc Ock's arms, like, oh, so you tell me Octavius didn't make those?
Well, for all we know, Octavius works for Oscorp, and he did design the arms.
That's
we don't know what they were doing with that. I think the only person that would have like gotten it from nothing would have been like Adrian Toomes in this universe. That they would have given this world's Adrian Toomes the wings. Yeah. Which if Morbius takes place in this universe, I assume that's what happened.
Do we want to briefly just touch upon Spider-Man's appearance in Civil War?
Yeah, may as well. Okay, so we're wrapping up Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Here's my thoughts. They got the rights at the last fucking minute and threw another action figure in the pile, and it barely fucking mattered.
Pretty much. See, I'm definitely going to rewatch Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's not like I don't watch it every now and then, but
yeah.
It's like the whole time thing was something that's like, I've never thought about that. But yeah, I'm actually...
It makes me completely ignore why there's a giant clock tower in the middle of an electrical plant.
Yeah.
Because the theme is so cool that I don't care about the reality of it.
Which I was telling him the other day when I rewatched it. I sent him a message saying, I really enjoyed this movie.
He was like,
way more with the rewatch than I, remembered.
Mm-hmm. But okay, so I guess we will move on to Civil War, and
let's not stay too long on it. But I do want to say, I love him grabbing Winter Soldier's arm and saying, "Wow, a metal arm, that's awesome, bro." And then you just seeing that he's holding it, and Winter Soldier, this dude that we've already seen, is got this ridiculously strong, robotic arm, can't do nothing. Like that to me, I love.
Yeah, I do like this. Honestly, it was the first time we actually saw, like, I think it was like Spider-Man's like strength level, like what I was kind of used to.
I mean, in the Spider-Man movies, in Spider-Man 1, he's holding up a whole fucking trolley car.
Yeah, he did stop
In
a
2, he's
train.
holding a whole fucking steel thing. He's stopping a train. Now, I think we've got a good amount of Spider-Man strengths in all of the live actions up to this point.
I think more like in comparison to these other these MCU characters, it was
That's fair.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It's like he takes down the Falcon and the Winter Soldier like they're nothing.
And I like that he was talking all throughout the fight. Like I do like that. I like, and this is the biggest positive for his appearance in this. I like the fact he actually looked like a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really love that. And honestly, I think Tom looks very, very close to from the '80s cartoon how he was depicted in that, and I really like that.
I overall like Tom. I think Tom Holland is a great actor. For
I think
me,
he's
it's
easily
just
the second best Spider-Man.
I agree he's the second best. But it's just like that's what he is. He's the second best. Everything that he does, I feel that Andrew already did better. So it's just like he's just trying to be that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but he's down here.
And I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out there too. And me and him were just talking about this before we started recording. That a lot of Spider-Man's traits were already given to Tony Stark.
Yes.
And I don't think that it was. I think it was Robert Downey Jr. doing it without really thinking about it.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a conscious thing.
But those are Spider-Man traits, like the way he, for example, calling Thor Point Break and stuff like that. That's Spider-Man. That stuff Spider-Man would do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate how he looks in Civil War and every future appearance.
I don't hate it.
Well, I hate it because they had an actual suit on the set of all of these.
Yeah.
And they completely replaced it with CGI. Even when he's just crawling on a wall.
That's completely fair. I agree with that.
That's what I mean when I say I hate the look.
I thought you were meaning the design.
Well, I'm not a big fan, but that's because I don't like the smaller eyes. And
yeah, I'm the same way. I like bigger eyes.
I hate the symbol. I will say that I hate the fucking chest symbol. I think it's too small. I think it looks like a tick. And then they made that the back symbol too, and I lost my fucking mind. In the sequel, like in Far From Home, they made that the back symbol. I'm like, go fuck yourself. At least I had the classic back symbol in Homecoming.
Yeah.
I do like the eye lenses.
I like the eye lenses. Like I think that was a cool addition to make it like just give a nod to the way you feel reading the comics where he's more expressive, and they explain it in a way that I'm like, okay, I can get with this.
Okay. I'm gonna start talking about Homecoming. Here's one of my issues. Okay, Stark suit, their cameras, they're focusing, they're unfocusing, no problem. Why do they open wide when he's surprised? And also, his lenses were moving in his homemade suit.
Yeah.
What? How? Did he also have super advanced tech cameras when he had a shitty homemade suit that was a sweater?
Maybe he was just smart enough. He knew how to make it adjust. I don't know.
I think Disney just fucking forgot.
You may be right.
That's probably 100%.
That's fair.
So, since we're moving into Homecoming, let's just talk about Homecoming. You want to talk about the bad or the good first?
It's up to you guys. Whichever you want. It don't matter.
I mean, I got more bad than good for all of these, so...
you want to just unload your bad and then we can get to the good?
I don't know. It's like... I hate unloading because at the end of the day, it's just not for me. And that's fine. Okay. But it's like... I think my core biggest issue, and this applies to the first two movies, is that this doesn't feel like a Spider-Man story at all. It feels like a... You can get ready for this, Jerry. This feels like a Wally West story. This feels like Wally trying to live up to Uncle Barry. Yeah. That's what this is. This first movie is a Kid Flash movie, and then the sequel was after Uncle Barry dies in Crisis in Infinite Earths, and Wally's like, oh shit, can I be the Flash now? And all this pressure's on him. That's not Spider-Man. Spider-Man's never had that plot. Spider-Man's never had those themes. Spider-Man has never been connected to that sort of thing. He's been on his own. He has tried to join teams and realized that, oh, well, you don't pay, so fuck it, Fantastic Four. I don't care anymore. He doesn't have a fucking team. He doesn't have a fucking computer guy. Nothing about the movies.
I remember reading issues where they would, like, the Avengers would be like, hey, why don't you join our team? He's like, no, I'll work alone.
Yeah. And, like, eventually he joins the Avengers. I'm fine with that.
Way later.
But that's, yeah, exactly. Like, he's too young, and, like, he has all these resources from Tony Stark. That takes away from Spider-Man a lot to me. I'm not saying that I need to see him struggle to pay rent every day or anything like that, but, like, part of Peter is like, I gotta work. I gotta make money. I gotta pay the rent. I need to help my friends. I need to keep my relationships. And I also need to be Spider-Man because that's important. This is just like, he has access to a fucking billionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually was
technology.
One of my bones of contention is like, aside from, his powers, like everything about him was given to him. Like,
yes.
I know they try to make that into a theme in the movie, but like, I don't hate the look of it. I hate the idea of the Stark suit, like having all of this tech in it.
Yeah, so much tech. I laugh every single time Tony Stark says, if you're nothing without the suit, then you're nothing. Like, do you know who the fuck you are?
Yeah.
I don't care. I just don't care. He's calling Happy Hogan every day. I like the montage of him trying to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah, I do want to say that. I like that. I thought that was fun. I thought that was light. That feels like something like a 16-year-old Spider-Man would do.
I love the guy yelling at him to do a backflip.
That is my life. Whenever fucking as soon as that happened, I got triggered in the theater when I first saw it. Like, do a flip. Yep, that's what happens when people see Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't care about Spider-Man in high school, and I never have.
That's fair. I like it, but like I like all these different time periods of Spider-Man.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't find Liz interesting.
Oh, fair. I forgot about her.
There you go. I don't care about Michelle. I don't dislike Michelle, but I don't care about Michelle. The movie ending with "Call Me MJ" was like on the same level as Joseph Gordon-Levitt saying like, "My real name's Robin."
Well, I remember
it's a beautiful middle name.
I remember whenever I was like watching this, I'm like, why didn't they just straight up make her Mary Jane and like actually give her the character of Mary Jane?
Just keep Zendaya. Just give her red hair. That'd be nice. Just give her red hair. That would make me happy. I don't care about Vulture. I love Michael Keaton. I think he acts the hell out of the part.
Yeah.
I think he acts the best out of most MCU villains, but his motivation is fucking stupid and uninteresting, and I don't care. And the villains for the first two movies are just Iron Man villains, except they're Spider-Man characters. They just hate Iron Man, and now Peter's fighting them instead. And I hate that. I hate it so much. I hate the fact that the action is boring in this movie. The web swinging is boring in this movie. Nothing is visually interesting in this movie at all to me. The entire scene with the airplane crashing is like so big, and it should feel epic, but it feels way less interesting than every climax before this. I don't like it. I don't like this movie. My favorite part of the movie are the morning announcements. They crack me up, and they're the most real-feeling morning announcements that I've ever seen. And that should be my favorite part in a Spider-Man movie.
Well, let's see.
I'm done.
No,
I'm done.
I absolutely like. Even though I'm like you, I prefer an older Spider-Man. I like the younger stuff, and I like specifically thinking about like.
Wait. Should I go first because I got more negative stuff to say?
Oh well, if you got some negative stuff, go
on. This is, and I overall like MCU Spider-Man movies for what they are, but this is my least favorite.
Mine too.
I don't. It's not the actors. I don't like the supporting cast of characters because they're MCU characters, not Spider-Man characters. I hate Flash Thompson. I hate aggressive nerd Flash Thompson.
He is bullying no one, even in this movie. Like the purpose of Flash Thompson is gone. Like as soon as Peter comes back, everyone's like, "Yeah, fuck you, Flash." No one cares.
The only thing preventing this dude from being bullied is that everybody in this school is
A good
not a
person.
jock. Yeah. Let's see. Ned, I could take or leave.
I
He's
actually like
Genki.
that.
He's Miles Morales' friend, and I don't know why he's in Peter's movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I don't. It doesn't feel like Spider-Man supporting cast. I don't. The teachers, the actors are fun for their bits, but it's like, they don't really add anything to it.
But you don't understand. Everyone wants to fuck May. That's really important.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
That is such a
Okay.
fucking focus of these fucking movies.
it
And
is. I mean,
lose my
it's like,
mind.
I have nothing negative to say about Marissa Tomei because I love her.
No,
And you could
she's
put
I love her as a
put
person,
her
as an
playing
actor.
Peter Parker, and I would have been all on board.
but yeah, it's like, I did remember making the joke when she was cast. It's like, well, this is going to be the hottest Aunt May they've had. And it's like, by the time we get to the next Spider-Man reboot, I think May and Peter are going to be the same age.
Yes.
Um,
He says aunt is like a term of endearment.
Let's see, what else do I not like? I don't like the Stark suit and all the tech. You're right about like the action feeling flat, like the Washington Monument bit, and it was like there's nothing exciting about that sequence
No.
at all. Trying to think. That's it. That's I had to add to the negative. So
It's not that important, but since we want to wrap up the negatives, when I first saw the Iron Spider suit for the first time, my genuine reaction was going audibly, "Ew."
yeah,
Like it is an ugly version of the Ben Reilly Spider-Man suit.
The design doesn't work for me and I like the comic book look way better for that.
yeah.
Again, they took the Iron Spider from the comics and the Ben Reilly Spider-Man suit and combined it in the worst way possible, and I fucking hate that suit.
And we get to look at that thing for the entirety of Infinity War, and then at the end of Endgame. So it's like, yeah, we get this one. So we'll go with the positives, and you've already mentioned Michael Keaton.
I think he's the biggest positive in the film, in my opinion, because he is like whenever he's like in the car talking to him, he's like, "I'm gonna kill you and everybody you love," and doing his good old Spider-Man, which is my favorite line from the whole movie.
Yeah, good old Spider-Man for me is right up there with I'm something of a scientist myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, he owns every scene he's in, to the point where it's like I like him so much that I'm like I kind of want him to get away.
He's too good for the MCU.
Yeah, I've said that about other actors. Like I think I said that about you because you're asking me about Moon Knight, and I'm like, God, I feel like Oscar Isaac is too good for this stuff.
Oh, even the director of that show was like, I fucking wish this wasn't in the MCU. Like, he said that in an interview, and I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Like,
it's like, I found out, like, two of the directors that are doing episodes, Benson and Moorhead, I was like, what, really?
Yeah.
It's such a waste of their time. But,
I'm still here.
Cool. So, Bryan, you got positives.
All right, so I'm actually a big fan of the smaller scale. Because, like, I remember a lot of my favorite actual Spider-Man stories are usually smaller scale. Like, I keep mentioning this over and over that one of my favorite stories is literally just him and Wolverine walking through woods, like, kind of arguing the whole time. And to me, I love it. I love
I don't mean to completely cut you off, but may I rebuke that a little bit? I would agree with you. I do like smaller Spider-Man stories. I don't think every single Spider-Man story needs to be this huge world-ending thing. The unfortunate thing is this giant fucking plane is crashing, or this fucking boat is splitting apart, and if they get their hands on Ultron's head, the world is fucked. Like, this started off as a small Spider-Man story, and that's actually when I liked it.
Bigger, yeah.
I'm sorry, continue though.
I like the scene where he was needing to get, I forgot where he was going, but like there was nowhere to swing on. And he was just running. Great. And to me, that was something I've been waiting to see in a Spider-Man movie. I'm like, what happens when he's in a scenario where he don't have buildings to swing from?
Yeah.
I've been waiting.
He lives in Queens. Queens doesn't have skyscrapers. How does he needs to get to the city first?
Yep.
That's a lot of running Spider-Man.
Or commuting.
Yeah.
which I'm just such a huge fan of Donald Glover in general, but like
Mhm.
I love his, like the interactions with Spider-Man. Like I love the whole I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. I mean a man. Like I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love, like that Donald Glover is not even impressed by anything he's doing Spider-Man. He's like, you got to fix this, with the web.
I have ice cream.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm like, to me, I
And he's
would
Miles'
love,
uncle.
yeah, I
Nice
would
little
love
deep
to
cut.
see him as the Prowler. Although I want
Mhm.
it to be taken very seriously, but I want to see him as the Prowler. Um, I I don't know. I just genuinely like the idea of actually, like I've mentioned this before, high schoolers that feel like high schoolers.
They do feel like high schoolers. I do
And
agree with you
and I know
completely.
you guys were bashing Flash. I like Dick Flash. I like Flash that's not like a physical threat. That's just a dick. Like I'm cool with that. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. I think
And
that's completely
honestly,
valid. Yeah.
today I think it's less likely, compared to probably when we were younger, for there to be this physical threat bully. Like I think it's more the guy that talks shit.
I, 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 I do think you're right about that. I do think that modern bullies are not what bullies used to be. My issue with Flash is that he fails as a bully.
Yeah, he's
You
a
know,
it's like
I can agree with
you
that.
don't get the idea that he's popular or anybody likes him or anything. It's
yeah,
just
everyone hates him. Like he's
yeah,
the exact opposite of Flash, and I don't just mean from the physical
Yeah.
standpoint. It's just like no one likes him. He's not successful at bullying Peter. Everything he says to Peter either gets pushed aside or everyone around Flash disagrees. I think if they played up him being a dick, being an internet bully to Peter or something instead, I would have liked this Flash more. But that's what is missing to me
yeah.
is the
I that's
threat of Flash.
and
That's fair.
and this is one of those rare times that I'll probably blame not the actor but the casting is that for that to work, he's got to be kind of charming,
Hmm.
and I don't think that actor really has that in his wheelhouse. Um, in anything else I've seen him in, which I guess is just Wes Anderson movies, but
Well, I mean, no one's really charming in those. Everyone's a fucking weirdo.
no, everybody's really neurotic and weird.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to the script. I
Yeah.
think that's it. It just comes down to the script, and like, there's a lot of stuff that Marvel Studios was adding and changing. I mean, like, I remember the back and forth emails about Amazing Spider-Man 2, and like some people use those as proof as like why the MCU needed Spider-Man back, but like some of the shit in those emails is like their emails to Sony about Spider-Man 2 is them not understanding basic storytelling points. And I'm just like, what the fuck? How do you not understand what the fuck they're doing here? And like they like didn't understand that like characters were dead or that characters weren't dead. And like some of the stuff they were saying in the email was legitimate, but like it wasn't. This shining beacon of Marvel Studios always knows what they're doing. Fucking no.
Which
And to me, the MCU Spider-Man movies are the proof of that. But yet other people, this is their favorite Spider-Man series, then who am I to say they're wrong? I don't like them, but who am I to say that they're fucking wrong? I'm
Well,
nobody.
let's go ahead and move on to two because I think
oh, Far From Home.
yeah,
Yes, they all have home in the title.
yeah, Home from Home, Home Alone.
God, it's weird. Like this is still another movie where Spider-Man doesn't do anything by himself.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and just point out my absolute favorite thing about this movie, which is Mysterio.
Yes.
Like I freaking love Mysterio in this movie.
And I'll actually say this, and I know you said like he's basically would have been an Iron Man villain that just happens to be a Spider-Man character, but I think he's my favorite villain in all of these Spider-Man movies because it's the first time, other than the Topher Grace Venom, that we have a villain that's just an absolute irredeemable piece of trash.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing good about him. Um, at best is that maybe he's not going to kill too many more people if
Right.
we got rid of Spider-Man, but I love the fact that it's like there's no gray area with him. It's like no, he's awful.
Yeah. I do like Far From Home more than Homecoming, but it really is marginal,
I
and a
also
lot
think
of that is because of Mysterio.
Yeah.
I think Zendaya's character is more fleshed out and better in this movie than Homecoming quite a bit.
I think it's just because she's got more
Way
screen
better.
time.
That's a big reason. And I don't know. I don't know how I want to talk about this movie. I don't know where I want to start.
Okay.
While we're still on Mysterio, I'll say that like the thing that makes me rank the movie higher, for the most part, is honestly that first action sequence between Mysterio and Spider-Man.
Mhm.
Spider-Man being in the fucking holograms and
Yes.
like the illusions and shit. That shit was great.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like I legitimately love that stuff.
I love that that Mysterio's this team. I do kind of think it's different in the comics, but it's kind of cool. Like
It works, yeah.
I just like that, and Quentin Beck's still the leader. You know, he's still
Yes.
Mysterio, but like it's this big team effort, and it's like I don't know, it's fun to me the way it goes down.
Like almost everything with Mysterio, I like. I'm trying to think again. The illusion sequences, especially that first one where he's tricking Spider-Man and essentially getting him hit by a train.
Yeah.
The action sequences aren't.
No, they're good.
You know, yeah,
they're still not good.
I like again, like talking about like how flat and it's like you almost have the exact same like the sequence with what was the flood, and then we had the
he's fighting a
Bears
giant fire monster, and I'm bored because nothing interesting is happening.
It's not an interesting sequence.
Also, how the fuck does those holograms work? It's a fucking hologram, but it's actually setting shit on fire and like actually destroying stuff.
Yeah, it's like
I was not clear on that. Maybe I'm stupid and missed something.
Well,
I don't want to.
I'm assuming that I don't know.
It
They
didn't
probably didn't figure it out.
it made sense when stuff's supposed to be destroyed. Oh, the thing is shooting it. It's like there's no ballistics done on this.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like gunshots when they're testing it out.
Yeah.
But it's like it's one of those like I'll suspend disbelief. We're in like the MCU. Science is magic, so we'll
Sure.
go with that. We saw
So
that.
I don't like that Peter is like completely in love with Michelle now.
Yeah,
we didn't get to see that at all.
No lead up.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like, oh, it's the weird girl that may or may not have a crush on me. And then I think we probably jumped to a few months to Infinity War, and then they're all apparently got killed by Thanos and brought back. And
well, this is after that. This is after Infinity War.
Well, I'm saying like, so they didn't even have like a time to develop a relationship.
Right.
Now it's like I've been in love with her for my entire life.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, that was like completely unearned. No lead up, no nothing.
No. I like Ned and Betty by comparison.
Yeah,
I thought they were adorable.
That was great.
Which I mean is making almost the joke of like, here's a relationship out of nowhere and how stupid it is.
Yeah. Like kids do.
I actually enjoyed giving Happy a relationship with Aunt May. I don't know why I enjoy that. But like if they, for example, if they would have somehow had like a Tony Stark go after her, I probably wouldn't have liked it. But the fact that it was Happy Hogan, which is a glorified sidekick, like I loved it.
Well, it's just I like Jon Favreau, so.
And yes, I love Jon Favreau. That's a huge part of it as well.
I hate the plot of this movie and I hate the themes of this movie because literally all the lessons Spider-Man learned in the last film are gone.
Yeah.
All the last movie was about, responsibility. I need to do what's right to save people, and this is just like, no, I don't want to be fucking Spider-Man. I just want to fuck my girlfriend, and it's like it's like Toby times 10.
You didn't even lose the powers. You could do both. You still had the magic suit.
Right, like it's like so, and this isn't like the good kind of selfish Peter that I like seeing from time to time. This just doesn't make any sense as a sequel to the previous film to me.
That's fair.
And the whole, it needs to be with S.H.I.E.L.D., and it's like too big again.
Yeah.
S.H.I.E.L.D.'s involved, he's dealing with all this shit. The multiverse thing was obviously a lie. Like, I called that in the trailer. I'm fine with that. I don't care about that. But then, like, it's this huge fucking sequence at the end with, like, all this stuff getting destroyed. It's all about living up to Uncle Barry. Oh, I'm sorry, Tony Stark.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the movie, but it was in the trailer where Happy Hogan said, we need a new Iron Man. And then it cuts to Peter. And I just, in my mind, pictured Rhodey standing outside the window crying in his Iron Man suit.
So what the hell, Happy?
And then you get the fucking Iron Man making a suit scene with Peter with AC/DC playing, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't fucking care. I don't fucking like Iron Man in the MCU anymore. Because you made him fucking Jesus. You made him the messiah of the entire
Yeah,
universe.
he's a science wizard by the end of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you go from the first Iron Man where he's in a cave hammering out,
Mhm.
metal,
I love Iron Man 1.
and then you get to like Infinity War, and he's like, "Here's my magic suit."
Nanomachine, son.
Yeah, we can explain it all away with nanomachines. It's magic.
Yeah. It's fucking. But yeah, it's just.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of just one of the symptoms that kind of crept in there to all
Yeah.
of these movies, since they're all like one big thing, and it kind of taints the Spider-Man stuff a bit. And it's like it's magic time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't like the Shield stuff, and I don't like it even more when it turns out not to actually be Nick Fury. It was like, wow, this is like the empty Iron Man
Now,
armor times more.
even though I mean, like, I get that not liking it, part of me does like it just because it's such a dickish move for Nick Fury to not even be on World or not, well, not on World, but he's like on vacation or some shit.
I just
He's off world. He's building sword or
yeah,
something.
I,
Yeah.
I I don't care. This is a Spider-Man movie.
I
Um,
mean, that's the thing still. Like,
and that
neither Homecoming nor Far From Home at all feel like Spider-Man movies.
well, it's like my kids, they watch the past couple of Spider-Man cartoons they have on Disney, and I'm like, I hate these cartoons because they're not Spider-Man.
Hmm.
It's Spider-Man joining some junior Avengers, or
Mhm.
Spider-Man and a school of spider people. And I was like,
Yeah.
I just want a story about Peter Parker as Spider-Man.
Or just Miles as Spider-Man.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
Miles and a whole bunch of other Spider-Man, which work.
Like, fucking, all these fucking people that, like, want Disney to 100% get all the rights back. It's just like, I would rather have one Sony produced Into the Spider-Verse than 100 more MCU Spider-Man movies.
I'll give it that. And
Like,
I'm not the biggest fan of Miles because I don't think they've ever done enough other than in the movie
In
itself.
the movie is
But
great.
I don't think they've ever done enough to give him his own character to be something. Even when they got rid of the ultimate Peter Parker, and it's like this is the ultimate Spider-Man now, and
Well,
it's
all they
like
need to do is take what they established
just
in the
do
movie and
that,
carry forward with that because that's brilliant.
do that because that was, um, yeah, I'll agree. I think Into the Spider-Verse was a better Spider-Man movie than definitely Homecoming and Far From Home.
I would rank it above No Way Home too, personally. I know No Way Home has the nostalgia, but in terms of like actual again like themes and like character arcs and like a good story, I think Into the Spider Verse fucking nails it.
Well, let's go ahead and segue in, or go ahead and move on into No Way Home.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
there's probably going to be less to
and
be said
actually,
about that.
this is my personal favorite Spider-Man. And yes, I understand the story complaints and all that, but like to me, it hinges what makes it my favorite Spider-Man is Willem Dafoe and his altercation with him, like the fight
Mhm.
where he's punching Willem Dafoe in the face and he's just laughing. I'm like, that was enough to make this my favorite because Willem Dafoe goes all out.
He
Uh,
does.
let's see.
I mean, it's definitely for me. Obviously, it's the best MCU Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
The only issue is that that's not a high bar. So the question is, how much better is it? I do think. Here's my overall thoughts. I do think that this actually feels more like a Spider-Man movie, even though it's this multiverse story, which Spidey doesn't usually deal with.
Yeah.
Um, it shouldn't have taken the third movie to get to this point, and I think that's a big detriment to the film. You
Yeah.
know, like the entire thing feels like a 3-movie arc with a retcon just to get Peter to where he should have been in the first movie, and that drives me fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I completely get that.
I do like it better than other stuff. Like I think if I was doing like a full series ranking, it'd be around the middle. Like I honestly do have the amazing movies at the top, unashamedly. Spider-Man 1, I think the question is, what do I enjoy more? Is it No Way Home or Spider-Man 3? And then it goes like Spider-Man 2, Far From Home, and Homecoming's way down here.
Yeah. See, I this is the one I like best of the MCU. It's my favorite one of that. I think they handled the universe stuff better. I think Doctor Strange was a better thing because he doesn't dominate it the same way that Tony's like. Peter doesn't worry about like I got to live up to Doctor Strange's expectations or I've got to listen to Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
It's like he's just kind of there, and being the fact that even though they're both different from the comics, and it's like it's another Steve Ditko character, so I'm good with that.
Yeah. I at first I was afraid that he was in the movie too much because there was that fucking fight in the Elseworld or whatever it's fucking called was lasting way too long for me. But then he's gone.
Yeah.
So like it's a non-issue. Like I still think that scene in a vacuum is too long, but then he's gone the rest of the movie. Okay, no problem.
I love that whenever I was hearing that the other two Spider-Men were going to be in it, I was so worried that they were just going to be in it for like a scene. So I'm glad they were in it for more.
God.
I was literally saying like I need people to spoil this for me because if Andrew Garfield's in one scene, I'm not going to go.
Message. I remember this. I sent you a message being like, "Yeah, you should probably check it out."
And I did, thanks to you. I wouldn't have seen it. Like
I was happy, so happy in the theater when Andrew Garfield comes through and takes the mask off, and it's like whole crowd cheers. It was like, "Yay, you do like him."
Yeah, damn right.
And I love the whole interaction with him and Ned's grandma or whatever. Like, can you get this? And then he's like crawling with the mask in his mouth, and like just the way he played that was Spider-Man, and I love it.
Well, that's because I love Andrew. If it wasn't Andrew, I wouldn't like that scene as much because it lasts too long and it's very MCU.
And I love her.
We're making like 3 jokes.
What was it that she threw at him? She threw something at him, and he's like, "Oh, bread!" And she's like, "You have to," He's like, "I have it, but not for bread." And I love the way he played it.
Yeah, well, it's because he's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, so overall, I have fun with this movie. I do think that it's a more hollow version of Into the Spider-Verse, though. I think it is. There's not. Tom does have growth in this, and I do appreciate that. But again, I feel like it's growth that should have happened 2 movies ago, and I can't turn my brain off when it comes to that.
Yeah, I got you.
I like May dying. In my personal preference, I would have loved her whispering Ben as she was fading, because it's kind of weird that he's never mentioned at all.
I think the only time he was mentioned is in the What If episodes, right?
Yeah, and his name is on the suitcase that Peter has.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand how any of this works because Electro didn't know Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Yeah, don't think too hard about this because
I think they wanted them all to be in it. They're like, who agrees to come back? Yes, you're in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
I would have loved it. This didn't happen, but I would have absolutely loved it. Since they brought Venom for no reason. If they would have brought Topher Grace's Venom too, and just had the other Venom just bite his head off and be like, "Fuck that guy." Like I would have.
That's not happening to him.
I'm sorry, but like I would have loved that.
I would have. Yeah, I think you're right. Like they were like, "You want to come back, Jamie?" Yeah, sure. And now they
probably offered him a lot of money because he's like this Oscar-winning actor now.
And they had to think about like, all right, so how did we bring them all back? Well, people that knew that Peter Parker Spider is like, they think they're going to remember that Electro didn't know.
I think that it's kind of funny because, like, okay, so Doc Ock literally says, "Where's my son device? I had him in my hands," and he didn't know he was Peter until literally the final sequence. So you do all of this stuff to cure Doc Ock, who goes back to his universe and immediately pulls the sun thing down and dies anyway.
Yeah, it's like,
Electro potentially, I think, is the most interesting, and Norman are the most interesting of like when they go back, what happens. But like Lizard got cured in Amazing 1. He still went to jail.
Yeah.
Well, nothing changed. Sandman, the way he spoke, he still had a good relationship with Peter after the events of Spider-Man 3. Why the fuck are you curing him?
Yeah. Well, here's my opinion of what I would like to think happened to them whenever they went back.
Oh God!
No, I'm being serious. Like I think that maybe and I'm only talking about Doc Ock and Green Goblin or Norman. And I think that maybe they went back to the current time of their Spider-Mans rather than the time they died in, is what I'm
It's
thinking.
possible.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really explain it, but like that's what I would like to think. That maybe they don't just like this Norman don't just appear to get impaled.
It's like, Peter, I'm cured. Oh God.
He just
Oh
gets
no,
impaled.
he goes back, and that's why he says, "Oh," because he just went through the events of No Way Home.
Or in the middle of the fight, he gets punched and just dies immediately.
Oh my god, he just like that would be bad.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when he goes back, it's that moment in the end of the ending of Spider-Man 1, right before he gets
I
impaled.
would hope that it would be more like what I said. It's like, he comes back in the modern time of those Spider-Mans because clearly they're from further ahead.
You just want to give him a happy.
Yes,
I want to give them
the
a happy
Peters-
ending. I want to give them a happy ending. Yeah.
the Peters are definitely modern, whereas the villains are taken from before they die. So there's time travel stuff happening too. So who knows? Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Even Doctor Strange doesn't know how the fuck the multiverse works.
Yeah.
So
There's a whole movie coming out about that.
Yeah, it's Doctor Strange and how the fuck the multiverse works.
Here's my most hated moment of this movie. And it's stupid. But I swear to God, I was furious in the theater.
Oh.
So you heard me gush about the Zimmer themes and music and Amazing 2.
Excuse me.
Electro starts appearing, and you get 2 notes of Zimmer's Electro theme, and I got so excited. It was like the most hype I got during the whole movie. I was like, fuck yeah! And then the theme is gone. You got 2 fucking notes. I'm like, how the fuck do you have the rights to this fucking theme of Hans fucking Zimmer? And you don't use it. I was losing my goddamn mind. I was like yelling at my wife. I must have seemed like a crazy person if there would have been other people in the theater. But I was so mad about just the fact that it was like edging you and not letting you come. That's what it was, except it wasn't sexy at all.
Overall, I liked it a lot. I think the only things I really didn't like is the and it's been that way for a while, but the MCU jokey jokes.
Yeah.
For no reason, like when they asked Doc Ock and it's like Otto Octavius to start laughing, is like that sounds like a dude.
You know a guy named Stephen Strange. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's like
that's fair.
And like I don't know, like the what was the goatee template or like it's like, well, that doesn't. Why? It's like, let's deflate our characters with jokes. And it's like, it's okay because I mean, Marvel, like the comics, they were always like the characters were clever, and not all of them, but like there was that kind of undertones on a lot of them. But I think when the jokes start coming at the expense of the characters, it's like I get kind of sick of it.
One of my biggest issues with the MCU, stuff like that makes me like not like Thor Ragnarok as a Thor movie because of like how many pivotal moments are ruined with fucking one-liners and zingers for no reason. That's the MCU formula at this point. It clearly works for them, so it's never going to change, but it's not for me, and I don't like it. I really like the Spider-Sense scene in this movie. I want to give credit where it's due. I like that it was actually real shots with a real moving camera, and it wasn't green screen bullshit, and it looked good, and it was like nice. And I liked how everyone was like, Peter, what's wrong? What the fuck is happening? And you get that payoff with like Gabi and shit.
Yeah.
I liked Electro's update visually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that he is significantly weaker in this than he is in Amazing 2,
Yeah,
even though now he has a fucking arc reactor.
Stronger, even though he's clearly not.
He's pulling from an arc reactor, so it's like, oh, technically he should have just an unlimited amount of.
Because
he was a god in Amazing 2.
Andrew says he's never been this strong. I'm like, he was much stronger.
Right.
Like this dude was like, he was atomizing himself and coming out of things.
Yeah. I think the CG in this movie is a huge negative. Not every shot, not every example, but enough that it's very noticeable in my opinion. Like I didn't get it. I was trying to do a rewatch up to No Way Home before I went to see it, and I only got to Amazing 1, but I rewatched Amazing 1 the night before in 4K on a 65-inch screen TV where I sit, 10 feet away. And Then when I went to see No Way Home, immediately I was like, why does the lizard look worse than he did 10 fucking years ago?
Yeah, that was
And like the Doc Ock arms look bad, and again the Spider-Man suit. I complain about that enough, but that's still the case. Sandman looks like garbage, and
yeah
he's sand the whole time because Thomas Hayden Church couldn't be on set.
yeah
Why did they let Lizard stay in the van? Oh right, because they didn't want to spend more on CGI.
yeah. It's
And
one of those, and I think that kind of comes down to like how they do these MCU movies. Is like so much of it's just on a soundstage with
post.
a bunch of green screen and
Yeah, but
incomplete costumes where well, we'll fill it all in with CG later.
I don't like where the climax happens. I think it's uninteresting and
Yeah.
kind of boring. I'm glad that they destroy the
I
Captain America shield because that's a stupid fucking idea. I'm glad
I
they at
was
least did that.
actually mad about that the shield up there. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, that
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
It's like, did he die? Does everybody think he's dead?
yeah.
Don't they know that Iron Man was the one that actually did the snap, right?
Well, this is an American statue. Whatever.
What if they
It's.
just
I
put
mean, it's
Iron
dumb.
What if they just put the Iron Man suit on the Statue of Liberty?
I mean, it wouldn't be
They
any
should have
better.
just replaced the Statue of Liberty with Iron Man.
Yeah,
Have
they
he's
just hold
holding the
the torch.
torch.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That
Oh.
Ghostbusters film is going to be real weird.
I in this movie think that I like Tobey Maguire better in the way he played this than any of his movies.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I do think that is. I think that's where my enjoyment of the film comes from. I think that's where a lot of people's enjoyment from the film comes from, even if they aren't willing to admit it. Is I do, and this is a genuine compliment.
Mhm.
This movie did handle the Peters being together well.
Yeah,
They had a lot of downtime where they were actually talking. It wasn't all fucking jokes. They got to connect. They got to like actually like get to know each other and be like brothers, like Andrew
yeah.
put it in the film. And it was really nice. I was surprised at how much time they had to just talk. Because in the MCU, that usually doesn't fucking happen.
Yeah, I was totally expecting this, like, oh, we're gonna open a portal at the very end, and these two are gonna come through.
Yeah.
We're gonna see him unmasked for like 30
2
seconds,
seconds,
and
yeah.
then they're gonna put the masks on and become stuntmen, and that's
And just
gonna-
fight, and
yeah.
that's all.
So I'll give it like I was really surprised. It's like, oh, they're actual characters in this movie.
I love that they gave Andrew his moment to make up for the loss of Gwen. Like I
Yeah.
love and I love the tears on his light face.
Andrew outacts everyone
Yeah.
in this. Like, he's so fucking good. You can tell he has so much fucking passion for the
Well-
character. And yeah, when he actually catches Michelle and she's like, "Are you okay?" and it cuts to him just sobbing, my heart again. Like,
Well,
it's so fucking beautiful.
That's my favorite moment in the whole thing.
You know what I actually want to happen, like in a future thing. I guess it'd have to be Sony controlled, but I want them to bring Andrew Garfield back as his Spider-Man and bring Emma back as a multiversal Gwen that lost her Peter.
Peter,
Get them
yeah.
together.
I mean, I've been begging for Amazing Spider-Man 3 since 2014. So the fact that
think
there's
there's a chance
maybe a
now.
chance, there is
Yeah.
a chance, and I think that, but that's also, this is a negative, but it's not like a negative about the movie, but it's my negative feelings coming out of it.
Yeah.
When I came out of Into the Spider-Verse, I was really excited about what's next for Miles, that character,
Mhm.
or like where they would go next in the multiverse. When I walked out of Amazing Spider-Man 2, I was excited about, oh, what's the next story going to be like? I was looking forward to the next story about this character. When I walked out of No Way Home, I was like, oh, maybe I'll finally get a movie about this other character. Or maybe we'll see Tobey again. I didn't give a shit about what happens to Tom Holland
Mhm.
going forward.
I was like, I want to see it because I mean, like, it took him 3 movies to get to him being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And
now he has that new suit,
it's-
which is all CGI again.
I like the design of the new suit with one exception, and that's how shiny the blue is.
So shiny. It's like a Zentai suit,
So
like
if
it's
it
not.
wasn't shiny, it would be perfection. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry.
the oh god no at the end it's like I was kind of left with like, what are they gonna do with this Spider-Man now? Like,
Yeah.
Sony's obviously gonna spin off as many villains as they can into their own movies, so it's like, what are
I I mean, I've been predicting, and I don't know if it's going to end up being true. I'm sure it's just going to come down to contracts, but I've been predicting that the Venom movies are in the Amazing Universe since the
And I
first
hope
one.
so. That would be great.
I think it'd be a great way. That way, I can get more Andrew, and the people that like the MCU will also be getting more
Yeah.
Tom.
And people like me that like both will just be like, yeah.
Both,
And there's
yeah.
nothing that really stops that other than that in credit sequence in the second Venom movie. But we just pretend that doesn't exist.
What do you mean?
Well, like they see Spider-Man on TV and like it's like, oh, what is this? It's like, well, are they coming from a universe that doesn't have a Spider? It's like it's a credit sequence and it's
Yeah.
different universe.
I'm fine with them being like the Amazing movies are taking place at the same time as the Venom movies, and Venom doesn't know Spider-Man exists yet.
Yeah, we can go with that then.
Yeah.
He's not national news or anything.
Because Venom takes place in the Morbius universe, and Morbius takes place in a universe that has a Spider-Man. We just haven't seen the Spider-Man yet.
And I think that Andrew would be the perfect choice.
I think so too.
Yeah. Bring him back.
I would like that for them to if they use Tobey Maguire for anything else, like maybe do like some sort of version of the story where his daughter becomes Spider.
Oh, Mayday, yeah.
Yeah, Mayday. Like I think that would be neat. Like have him be this retired Spider-Man teaching his daughter.
He could also be the
No,
Spider-Man Rain.
Mary Jane died. All right, sorry.
I think he could also be the Spider-Man Rain Spider-Man.
Mhm.
Oh,
minus seeing his penis.
Yeah, minus that.
But like that darker story of like this is Spider-Man's last adventure.
That'd be cool.
I mean, they could do anything. Really, just comes down to getting the right teams, letting the teams do their fucking job.
Oh, did you watch Morbius? I haven't seen it yet.
I didn't see it yet. I literally said online, like, if Andrew Garfield is in this movie, I'm gonna go see it so that Sony thinks that Andrew's money. Andrew isn't in the movie. I'll see it eventually.
Yeah.
My biggest thing was that, like, I'm not COVID crazy anymore, but like, I still don't need to put myself at risk for shit I don't care about. At least, I got a movie shoot coming up. I got all these props here. At first, like, I waited 3 weeks to see the Batman because I didn't want to be in a packed theater. I didn't care enough about the Batman to be in a full theater, and it was full. Finally, it wasn't. I was going to see Morbius because everyone was joking that no one was seeing Morbius. Fucking every goddamn screening in my local theater was fucking sold out.
Weird.
Every single one. I could have gotten tickets. It wasn't like I had to rush to get the seats. Like, there were still seats available. I didn't want to sit with fucking 150 people to see fucking Morbius if Andrew's not in the movie. So I'll see it eventually, and I'm willing to bet that I'm going to walk out thinking that was fine, and the internet is blowing it out of proportion like they fucking do with everything.
I feel like making a Morbius movie that doesn't have Spider-Man in it just feels so weird to me.
Well, everything.
I mean, it does.
Everything Sony wants to do seems like, we're going to make a Craven movie without Spider-Man. It's like, who cares?
And the only way I want them to do a Craven movie is if it's Craven's Last Hunt or something similar.
With Spider-Man.
With Spider-Man.
Or this Madam Web movie. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not popular to say, but like, for me, Sony has more hits than misses.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like everything that they do, but they're good stuff. I like more than most of the MCU. So let them do their fucking weird plan shit, because maybe it'll work. Maybe Morbius is bad, but maybe Craven will actually be fucking cool. I don't know. I'd rather Sony do weird shit than the MCU where everything has to be fucking committee. Everything has to has to fit in with 35 other fucking movies, and like you can't do anything weird.
I'm saying I'd rather Sony just like bite the bullet and we're just doing Spider-Man.
Yeah, throw in Garfield. Yeah. Like, if they're doing these movies, throw in Garfield.
And I don't think there's anything that Disney could do to stop them.
No, they can't. Sony owns that.
Yeah. And it's like, no, we're gonna produce these Spider-Man movies with you. There's nothing in that says we can't make other Spider-Man movies.
I think I saw a conspiracy theory, and I think it's true, is that the reason why the Morbius trailer basically referenced both the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and the MCU Spider-Man is that they weren't sure what No Way Home was doing multiverse yet, and also they were waiting to see who signed the contract.
I gotcha.
For which Earth it took place in. and then no one signed the contract, so that's why they kind of had to like rush and make a new post-credit scene, which isn't good from what I hear, but that's fine. If it's if this conspiracy theory is true, I get it. Like they were like, okay, we got all these scenes, so whoever signs on, we'll just use these scenes. No one signed on. Fuck! You gotta release this movie.
Yeah, that wouldn't put it past him. I mean, like, there's definitely been stranger things, and
Yeah.
it's like,
So yeah, No Way Home. I like it, but I don't. I will say I don't think it's going to age very well, especially if we get more Andrew and Toby, because to me the biggest peak of the movie is getting these returning Spider-Men back, because we didn't think we'd ever see them again.
yeah. Well,
If we do see them again, the biggest positive this movie has matters a whole lot less. So I'll be curious what this feels like if we do get an Amazing Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man 4.
Yeah.
Which is like you say that like something that's like really hyped and people are over the moon about, and like as time goes on and other things happen, it's like I think that's where you see the quality of stuff in the long term. Because like what Bryan was saying about Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like, watching it, now it's like he saw a lot more positives in it, and it's like in kind of like seeing the reverse happen. I think I said that in like the first 2 episodes about Batman and Robin. It's like, it used to be the most reviled thing in the world. It's like, I'll put that on now. It's like, oh, this is fun and stupid.
Yeah, I just rewatched Batman and Robin. I'm like, this movie's a fucking blast.
It's great.
The cold puns are so great.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll watch it, and it's like, there's other Batman movies I'm like, yeah, it's technically better, but...
I hate Batman Returns.
Really?
I hate
it. You're like the only person I've ever heard say that.
Yeah, I fucking like. I wasn't kidding when I posted that like Dennis Reynolds stare in anger image. It's just like even my wife was like watching with me, like, because I really enjoy '89. Like it's not like an anti-Keaton or an anti-specifically Burton thing, although I do think Burton invented style over substance.
Is it because of him making it Tim Burton world? Like,
it's Tim Burton world. It's a Tim Burton movie. Like, fucking, it's Catwoman's eating fucking birds.
Yeah.
And fucking Penguin is a fucking mutant that lives in the cleanest sewer in the world.
Batman doesn't show up for, 40 minutes into the movie?
Batman is smiling about murdering people. He's setting people entirely on fire who has hurt no one. Fucking goddamn Christopher Walken is the main villain, even though you got a Catwoman and a Penguin.
Yeah, it's like it's
which I freaking love Christopher Walken.
Oh, me too. My favorite line in any Batman movie is Bruce Wayne. Why you dress up like Batman?
Oh yeah,
because it's Christopher Walken saying it. I lose my mind every fucking time.
No, it's like because he is Batman, and his reaction is like was.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Shoots him.
Yeah, God, that should have been the end of Batman.
Credits just go at that point.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, we're way off subject talking about Batman, but like, I mean, that's one of those things. Like, when Batman and Robin came out, it's like, oh, this is the worst thing ever made, and now I'm like, is this my go-to Batman movie? And it's like, yeah, because it's so dumb, and it knows that it's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes age makes you feel fonder about something, like Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Sometimes age, you see the cracks that you didn't see when you were young and nubile.
Yeah, and you
which
see,
was
like,
Spider-Man 2 for me, because I used to think Spider-Man 2 was the best, and then when I did a rewatch, I'm like, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but like, I like Spider-Man 1 and 3 more, and I didn't used to think that way.
Which I think that happened to me last time I watched the first Spider-Man. It was like, wow, it's like this thing doesn't really have a good like momentum to it, like it really should.
Yeah.
Steve.
And then the Amazings I rewatch over and over and over and love them more every time.
Steve, we were talking before. I was going to ask you if you have any true Hollywood stories you want to tell. Have you thought of any, or
celebrity dirt?
Well, celebrity dirt. It could be just something fun.
Okay, I'll tell you something fun that's on topic. It is not about a celebrity, but it's about what I did for my job as Spider-Man.
Awesome. Okay. I love that.
Okay, so for the sake of the story, I'm going to give you a basic setup. We were doing a zoo, usually like for weeks. It was a huge gig. Usually it was 4 characters: Hulk, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, and Iron Man. And usually it was 2 and 2, but this day was like a complete downpour. So we were all indoors, all together, and we had barely any kids all day. It was like an 8-hour shift of us just cracking jokes with each other, and we loved it. one of my longtime friends, co-actors, co-directors, Ben. I won't say his last name in case he doesn't want to be associated with the story. I probably shouldn't have said any of that. Fuck. It's too late now. But he's Iron Man. And in the Iron Man suit, you can barely see, you can barely hear, you can barely move. It's hot, it's uncomfortable, it's whatever. But he's usually still active. He's still cracking jokes, like he's still being like a good Tony Stark. So this kid comes up dressed as the Night Monkey from Far From Home. The kid is so excited. And I always like call the kids characters by their name. Like I try my best. Like sometimes I don't know the character and I just kind of go with it, but most of the time I'm able to say the name. Kids love it, parents love it, everyone has a great time. So this kid comes up, super hype. I go, "Whoa, it's the Night Monkey. You came here all the way from like Europe? That's amazing." Kid is into it, kid is laughing, parents are having a great time. I'm like, "Oh, can I get a picture with you? I'm a big fan of you. You know, some people say we look the same." Get a picture. Ben is frozen. He's not moving, and I don't know why. I think like maybe he's like getting like overheated or something because this is like the last set of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Last set of the night. So he is frozen, not saying anything, not doing anything. We get the picture. Kid leaves. No one else is in line, to be clear. Again, like dead day. Kid leaves. Ben immediately shifts like 80 degrees the best he can. He goes, "Did you just call that kid a monkey?" Because the kid was African American. Ben thought that I lost my fucking mind and became a racist. Like he was telling me, like I was like, no, he was dressed as like in Spider-Man in the movie is called the Night Monkey because he's pretending to not be Spider-Man, and so I called him. And Ben was like, "Oh my god, I thought we lost our jobs. I thought you just like for some reason became racist out of nowhere, and then we were done with Marvel. Our contracts were done. We were never coming back." And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And like it's hilarious to me now in retrospect because like for like a brief moment my friend thought I became a piece of shit racist to a child, and the entire time he's not moving as we're having fun. He's just like, he's a racist. We're fired. We're all fired. Like he's just freaking the fuck out for like 2 minutes in this like sarcophagus of a suit, and that's one of my favorite stories.
That is freaking hilarious, man.
Did you ever ask him? It's like that's not really how like racists work. It's not like it's like, oh, you were fine before, but it's like you get bit by a radioactive racist on the way in.
Maybe I just had a really good mask of not being racist for the past 10 years of us knowing each other.
I decided to drop it right now when this child is in front of me.
I feel safe in this Trump world. I can finally be me.
Oh god.
But yeah, so I mean that I did have a good celebrity story, but since we were talking about Spider-Man all day, I got to go with that. The epilogue to that is that my friend Bill Murphy, for Christmas that year, sent me the MCU Spider-Man stealth suit from Far From Home, and then wrote on the packaging, "Did you call that kid a monkey?" And that is hanging up in my basement forever.
That's funny. Oh man. Well, I guess since we're approaching the 3-hour mark, getting pretty close, like I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Steve, you can stay on after if you want to. It's completely fine.
I'm so tired. I have to be at a convention tomorrow. Like I wanted to be in bed 2 hours ago. But here's the problem: whenever you're going to get me to talk about Amazing Spider-Man 2, you're going over.
Yeah, well, that's all good. Like, well, we don't have like a set time, but I feel like 3 hours is good enough.
Yeah, there's not much else we can say.
So what did you say, Steve? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, there's not much else we can say. We talked about 8 fucking movies.
We went through it all. I want to thank you again for coming on here. I really appreciate it. But I guess we're signing off now. Everyone, thank you for watching another episode.
Or listening.
I'm going to put these on YouTube. I've decided I will. Yeah, and I'm actually forgetting what our next episode is on the Labyrinth, where we have
New Labyrinth?
Well, Labyrinth without the "the", where we have guest Christine Ghostly, and in which she's probably gonna make fun of me for not liking puppets. So there we go. And everyone, good night.